Yeah, hey, we're back, baby. We're doing it live. Well, live for us, doing a podcast.
Epic, we're doing it live.
That's right. We're doing it live, baby. We're doing it live, unless people are listening to this and, well, it's actually recorded. But just pretend it's live.
Right now, it's live for you and I. I am
Right
looking at you. It's
now,
live.
this is live. There's so many jokes out there that we could use for this podcast edition. You know what this is? This is the one we've been talking about for a while. This is the Cincinnati Takeover Edition 2025. Steve Sullivan, the Chancellor, Scott Beer, Scott Turon.
What up?
Man, we did it. We conquered. We made it.
We conquered. We survived. That was a big thing.
Surviving is always a good thing.
Were we going to make it through the 8 days? Actually, we had no doubts, did we? I mean,
that's right.
It really wasn't even that hard.
No, it actually wasn't.
No, we just did what we do.
That's right. We cruised on through.
Mm-hmm.
We took the annual trip to Cincinnati, and this is a two-part episode. This episode, we are talking all things that we did in Cincinnati. I got my little Reds hat on here. Red shirt, go Reds, you know?
Man, do you own any other clothing?
I don't know. Probably not. Everything is red back here. I know. But yeah, we took over Ohio, in fact. The podcast after this one, we'll be talking about our trip to Cleveland. Where else? Akron, Cleveland, Columbus,
yeah.
Louisville,
yeah.
Louisville, however you pronounce it.
Yeah, we did a lot, and hence the two-parters, and we have a lot of content here.
A lot of stories, a lot of content.
We'll kind of break it up into two different treks, shall we say? The Cincinnati one, and then part two would kind of be Cleveland, Akron, Columbus, Louisville.
We're gonna get our buddies, the Hill Tappers.
Oh yeah.
Tom and Brad to talk to us about the correct pronunciation one day for the city in which they live.
It won't be long because they're coming on with us at some point.
They are.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about our trip. You know what? I know we're also going to be talking about beer. In Cincinnati tradition, a brewery we're going to be talking about, I have the Rhinegeist here. It is a hazy IPA. It is Mysticor.
Ooh.
So kicking that off on the Cincinnati Takeover Edition 2025.
Well, cheers to that.
Yes,
I have got one that I brought back from part of our trip. It's called Lean West Double IPA from Masthead Brewing. We got from our friends Keith and Elizabeth. Yeah, so one of our beers in our beer trade. I'm going to start with that, but I have others that we're going to get to.
Awesome. Well, Masthead was certainly on the list, and you'll be hearing more about them in the next podcast coming up. But you know, we have to talk about our trip and everything that we did, and we'll go through a lot of different things. Basically, it spanned about 5 days, the week before Memorial Day. What a trip it was. We're gonna give you some stats at the end, and I wanna begin talking about this because, you know, going up, we had a semblance of a plan. A semblance of a plan of trying to hit different breweries.
A pretty good one. I mean, we had stuff written down.
We had stuff written. Yeah, we actually had a Google sheet. Stuff written down. And the plan was, all right, so we're going to be going up there on a Friday. We're going to be there Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday, and then leaving on a Wednesday. And I was like, you know what? Let's try to hit like the north, the south, the east, and the west. And we sort of accomplished that goal on most of them.
We did.
Of course, we didn't accomplish the goal of hitting every brewery in the north, south, east, and west because we would not be alive at this point. We would not be doing this live because we wouldn't be alive if we hit every brewery in Cincinnati.
We wouldn't. Look, we could you couldn't hit everyone. We could have hit everything on our list if we just ran in and did beer and ran back out again. We don't do that. We like to enjoy where we're at a lot of times too. So hence not getting to everything on the list.
That's true. If we just ran into every brewery in the quadrant area that we went in, you could run in, you could get one beer and say, all right, give me your Mexican lager. I'm out of here. and I'll grab it on the run, and then I'm going to, brewery number 575, because that's how many breweries are up there.
Right.
Not exactly that many, but there are a lot of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we don't do that. We really do, and you'll hear this in our stories in this episode of the next one. But we like to go in places, especially when we really like the place and we haven't been, and enjoy them. Of course, we go to places we've been to as well too, that we know that we enjoy, and we're going to spend time there too.
That was one of the goals. So there are always certain breweries that we know when we go up that we're gonna hit. I mean, I'm drinking Rhinegeist. Yes, we're gonna go to Rhinegeist. We're probably gonna go to Braxton, which we did. Sonder. There's others, Listerman. And it's interesting because I know you talk to people, I talk to people, and they'll say, did you go here? Did you go there? Go here, go there. And there's a couple of breweries that are always on the list that I hear about. One of them is Third Eye, and they have 2 locations, one in Sharonville and the other one in Hamilton. We did not get to Third Eye.
Right.
Bad us.
Right. Not this time.
But
yes. Right.
We've been to Third Eye before, and we are going to get there again. That was actually on our hope to get to list, and we did not get to Third Eye. The other brewery that we did not get to was Streetside. We went there last year briefly.
Yeah.
We had hoped to get there again.
And that was a little higher on our list than even Third Eye because we'd only spent a small amount of time there the last time.
It was, yeah, and we'll talk a little bit about what happened that made us bypass Streetside, but that's okay. We were talking. I mean, I remember we were kind of like coming back from our trip and talking about what are some of the ones that we want to try to get to in the future. And I know like Nine Giants, their fermentorium. We've not been to that one. We actually went to their brewery a few years ago, and the fermentorium we were hoping to get to, and so. It's kind of like, okay, that's going to be on the list in the future. We know north of town, like, we basically have gone as far as like north. We've gone up near Sonder. We haven't ventured above there. And it was funny because we were coming back from Columbus the one day, and I was showing you, I'm like, these are the areas that I think, are some breweries that one of these days we're going to have to get to, and we're going to just have to stay up here, or do something.
Spend a day.
Yeah, because there's so many different ones. I mean, Warped Wing and Common Beer Company and Cartridge. I mean, there's so many different breweries, even some I'm not even mentioning. And, between like Cincinnati, Middletown, Dayton, Hamilton, Westchester, there are so many breweries over that way that eventually we will get to, and we knocked off the list. But, buddy, we knocked off a lot of breweries.
Yeah. So with that being said, for the places we didn't get to, there's a whole bunch we did get to.
That's right. So whether it's new or whether it's old, we definitely got into some other breweries as well. And before we get into some of the stuff that we did, there is something that I just noticed as we were up there and as we were planning, and we actually took advantage of this. And I don't know how new of a thing this is. And we've talked about, the brewery experience. And I think this is a really cool thing for people. If maybe you live in the Cincinnati area and you've not done this, or you're going to go up there, is the number of breweries up there that now have brunch options.
Yeah. There was no shortage of it. And we were getting them like earlier in the week. You know how it is? Some places are, don't have, their hours are weird early in the week, like a Monday, Tuesday, or a Sunday, or they're not even open. But we were finding places. You did a lot of research on that before we went up there, so we knew places to go. But yeah, there's plenty of that stuff up that way, like for every day of the week, because we covered a whole week, so we had to account for every day.
Yeah, like every day of the week. So now you have breweries that, again, maybe this has happened for a number of years. I'm not sure. But like, for example, like Sonder, they do a brunch on the weekends. Third Eye, I know Esoteric does. I think Moorline Lager House has done it for a number of years. I went to a brunch with our good friends Keith and Elizabeth in Cleveland, and Liz, who we hope to get on our podcast episode, Every Day Our Bubbling. We all went to a brunch at Madtree downtown the last time I was in town. And Madtree actually opened up another location over in Summit Park in the Blue Ash area not long ago. where they serve breakfast and like a brunch every day of the week. So you're just seeing like the brewery experience with a lot of breweries up in that area that are just really, really expanding even more.
Yeah, we've talked about it with drinks at breweries and stuff, and something for everyone. That's another option. That's another thing. It's another part of the experience, as you said. That was a vacation spot for us. It's a vacation spot for other people too. The weather is getting nice.
Yeah.
We saw a lot of families out, didn't we? At all sorts of places. Whether it would be a Monday morning or a Sunday afternoon, everybody was out. So you've got to have something for people to come out to. And there's a lot of places doing that.
Well, and I even said we'll get to our brunch at Sonder here in a couple of minutes, but I said, you know what? Let's just start at Sonder. Do brunch. It takes out the middleman.
All you got to do from where we were, all we had to do was drive north for a bit, start out, right? It was a little further out that we start there, and man, just had a nice base. We had a nice meal, biggest egg sandwich I've ever seen in my life. Delicious. We'll get to that. But then you got your beer, and then right next, like the window over, is your food. It's pretty great.
Yeah, definitely. Well, we'll get into it here in a minute, but I also wanted to mention that while we were away, and I think we had posted a mention about this, George Wendt passed away while we were up there in Ohio. And for people that are wondering, who the heck is George Wendt? Maybe you don't know. If you drink beer, you probably do. You knew him from Norm from Cheers.
Norm.
And Norm passed away. And I remember that he had an Ohio connection. There was the mayor years ago in Hamilton, Ohio, which is right between Cincinnati and Dayton. His name was Greg Jolivet, and he was the mayor of Hamilton. His brother-in-law was George Wendt, and he brought him in one time for a campaign event. I wasn't there, but a buddy of mine who works up there on radio got to meet him, and he actually posted a picture the other day of it. So, yeah, there's your Ohio connection with good old Norm, George Wendt.
I didn't know this until literally that happened, that Jason Sudeikis is his nephew.
I didn't know that either. Yeah.
Ted Lasso himself, that's his nephew. I learned that while we were up there. So
yeah,
kind of cool. And then just a little sidebar, we were at the Airbnb in Cleveland, and you would turn the channel on one morning, and it was like Cheers was on, and we just left it on for like 2 days. It was like episode 1, and it just kept going right on there, and it was a great thing to watch because I hadn't seen that show in forever, and it was kind of timely.
Pretty sure the first time that you and I have ever traveled, we actually turned on the television.
Turn the TV on, yeah.
Turn TV on, yeah. We just had a few an hour or two to kill before we were heading out that morning, so it was kind of a cool thing. But any other notes that you want to talk about? Anything you want to talk about before we get into our case?
I have a question for you. So you are on a tour.
Mm-hmm.
You are currently on a West Coast IPA tour. So the fact that you could, take a break from your tour and do this podcast tonight is cool because, you got to check in. I know you're busy on this tour, and you were part of this tour in Cincinnati, but now you're off somewhere else. I'm not quite sure where you are, you're in this tour again. So just checking in.
Traveling city to city.
We don't know where he is right now. He's
on the West Coast IPA tour. Look for Steve.
Yeah.
He's everywhere.
So, as a general question, how is the West Coast IPA tour going?
The West Coast IPA tour is going pretty darn good.
Is that right?
It is.
Yeah.
And there's a couple of breweries that I got some West Coast IPAs that we're going to talk about in Cincinnati.
We're going to get some insight into the tour?
Mm-hmm. I think you were there. I think you may have witnessed it.
I didn't know what was going to come out in this episode, so we're going to get some bits and pieces of the tour. Okay.
We're going to get some insight on some of the West Coast IPAs that I rated and may have rated pretty high at certain breweries in Cincinnati.
Yep. What I saw, there's been a progression in this West Coast IPA tour of the stuff you've been drinking. So
I'm telling you, it's a good thing. It's a good thing. So,
it's good.
All right, you ready? Ready to kind of get into what we did up there, my friend?
Let's go. It's taken me 3 days to put in all the shit we've done. We've got them down. I'm ready. Let's go.
I know. I had to do like a book report because I had to go back into my Untapped app the last couple of days. You saw me rating other beers and what's going on here? And I'm like, because I forgot. I mean, I get caught up in, the moments of drinking the beer at breweries and the conversation and taking pictures and having a lot of laughs and seeing people that sometimes you go, oh, heck, I forgot to rate this particular beer.
By the way, another quick note. After this trip that we've just took, we're ready to talk about, your Untapped numbers have skyrocketed.
Well, they're not on your level. Not even
Well,
near.
it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. My point is, you are getting very close, my friend, to 1,000 unique check-ins. Oh. And I think you're over 950, and you've picked up a few that you drank and that you remember to put in there. So you are on a short-term track to 1,000. You are going to be there very, very soon. If we took another trip like this next week, you'd be there in 3 days.
I'd be there soon. Yeah.
You'd be there soon. But anyway, all eyes on Steve as he approaches his 1,000th unique check-in. This won't be the last you hear about it.
Well, and to those of you that have a lot more, it's probably not that impressive. But I'll let you talk it up, my friend, as much as you want.
Well, it is because I remember going to my 1,000. 1,000's a big friggin' number, and you get a special badge for it. So I'm excited for you to get that 1,000.
Especially since I was late to the party over the years of actually rating beers.
Yeah.
So,
now you're at the point. Now you're at the point where you go back after the trip and find the beers you forgot to rate that you drank. So I love that.
I mean, we're recording this like 4 or 5 days after we got back. And even last night, I'm sitting there going, oh, gosh, I forgot another one.
Steve's checking in beers on Untapped. I go, did he go back?
He had to go back. That's why we take pictures. To match?
Yeah.
That's why I go in. That's why I go in and I take pictures of the board and I take pictures of my flight. Most of the time, it doesn't always happen, but most of the time that we try to do that or whatever I'm drinking, whether it's a flight or a pint or, a half pour or whatever it is. Yep. So, yeah.
Well, anyway, at this point, every beer counts because, again, you're less than 50 away from 1,000. So
awesome.
You're on your way.
We'll get there soon. We're going to get there soon.
All right.
Well, the day we went up there was Friday, May the 16th, and it was kind of a crazy day because the theme of this trip, and especially the theme, we'll really get into it on the Cleveland trip, was a lot of rain, and that should come as no surprise because it seems like everybody that's either lived in Nashville or lived in Ohio or lived everywhere, all it's been doing for the past couple of weeks is rain. I mean, it's just been like rain nonstop. And we encountered a lot of rain on our way up, like through Louisville or Louisville. However you pronounce it. Now I'm going to become real conscious about that city in Kentucky that hosts the Kentucky Derby. There we go.
There you go.
There we go. We were actually wondering if they were going to get the Reds game in on that Friday because there was like some really bad weather that was coming.
It didn't look good.
It did not. It did not look good. So we got up there, and of course, we always, most of the time, I have to christen every trip with a kickoff of Skyline chili, probably for lunch, which we did.
Which I'm on board with, by the way. I didn't know, for the record, I'm on board. When we go up that way, I look forward to that first Skyline chili stop.
I had even mentioned, like, if we're pressed for time, we can like skip the Skyline chili and just go there another time, like at the ballpark, and
God forbid.
hit. Yeah, and you were like, no, absolutely not.
No. We can't have that hanging over our heads the whole trip.
We can't. It's funny, though. I thought about this. I have checked off a lot of Skyline chili locations in Cincinnati. This was a new Skyline chili location for me in Erlanger, Kentucky, which is probably 10 or 15 minutes from downtown Cincinnati. So, hey, man, shout out to the folks at Skyline Chili in Erlanger.
Great little spot. We took a little longer to get there than our normal Skyline chili spot, but well worth it because of the spot that went afterwards where we went.
It was well worth it. Yeah, definitely. Direct. We got the Skyline. I got a text message on my phone as soon as we got the Skyline that the Reds game had been moved up 90 minutes. Mm-hmm. And we already knew that we were going to be a little bit pressed for time to try to get in things we wanted to get in. And then, it was like, okay, what's our game plan now? Because the game was going to be at 6:40. They moved it up to 5:10. Well, the reason we went to Erlanger was because a last-minute addition that we had on our trip a couple days beforehand, I went, wait a minute. I know of this place called Fabled Brewworks.
Yeah.
Which has been open now. At the time of recording it, I think they're about to celebrate 2 years in existence.
Yep.
And it just hasn't worked out timing wise to get up there, because a lot of times if we've gone up during the week or I've gone up separately, they've not been open yet, or maybe I've just not been able to get there. So they opened up early on a Friday, and we got there. I think we may have been the first ones there. It was in the afternoon. It was probably, about 1:30, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And Scott, describe Fabled Brewworks.
Okay.
We posted pictures on Instagram.
Yeah.
We put some videos up.
So the word fabled has a purpose.
Yeah.
It's like fables and tales and stories and things. And the whole theme is that. Like if you see the pictures on our Instagram, like there are clouds in the sky and they have lightning in and it tells a story. And then there are a couple like cottages coming out from the walls that are built out. There's a hollowed out tree behind the bar with this big kind of opening in it, and everything is kind of fairy tale, not fairy tale, it's stories. It's fables, like Aesop's fables, that kind of thing. And it is so cool. Everything, the theme is like all the beer names are around those. There are things like B.A. Alakazam, A Nightmare on Elmore Street. Like everything ties into this theme. Steve, I went to the bathroom and I didn't get pictures because I didn't bring my phone in. The wallpaper was pages of books.
Okay.
With plastered. That was the wallpaper in there. Like every single thing in there had a story or a fable theme to it. It was amazing, was it not?
It was. Unlike any brewery that I've ever been to, as far as uniqueness and, as you say, the story aspect of it. And the other thing I did not realize, I had only been on their website like once or twice before we had gone there. And so I had asked them when I got there, I said, okay, did you guys start out serving craft beer and mead, or was it always that way? And he said, yeah, it was. So the thing that caught my attention was, and again, somebody correct me if I'm wrong after you hear this podcast, I am not currently aware of another brewery up there that does craft beer and mead together that has those options. I do know there's a meadery called All Fathers that's opening nearby in Melbourne, Kentucky, and at the time we're recording this, it's about to open or maybe open. But I don't know, and I did, I did a little bit of search. I just couldn't find any other places up there that you can get mead at other breweries. There probably are. I'm just not aware of them. Yeah. So that was an interesting kind of hook to go in there, because we've talked about the Honey Tree Meadery in Nashville and how we've come to love that. So that was an interesting start to our brewery adventure.
It was, and if I know the mead that Honey Tree has.
Yeah.
Versus the mead that Fabled has. Like Fabled were more of as a matter of fact, something had ice cream kind of in the recipe. So they were like more of a fruited sour type meads.
Yeah.
Versus the mead we're used to at Honey Tree are more of just that wine style. And it's not even a great description, but they don't have those added adjuncts or whatever. But there were more fruited sours at Fabled. So completely different. You wouldn't even know they were meads, honestly, unless you told me that they were.
Right.
Phenomenal. I mean, the place was great. I mean, we had a peanut butter and jelly. Now, that wasn't the mead. That was one of the ales, but they had a peanut butter and jelly on the menu.
They did. The Wicked Witch Grape Sour Fruited, which I really loved. I rated that a 4.25 on the old Untapped app. And I'll tell you, I had that. I had a couple of their beers as well. I had the Paul Bunyan American Lager, and also had their Red Right Hand, which is a red ale. And then the other mead, we tried a couple other things, but the one that was wild for me that I absolutely love. Now, I like coconut in beer. I'd never had coconut in a mead before. And this one was called the Curious Coconut. In fact, Tom from the Hill Tappers, they kind of followed us in the next day, and he's like, we're going to hit some of the breweries where you hit. And I think they've been to Fabled before, and he had it, and I loved it. I mean, I rated that thing a 4.50 on Untappd. I was like, this thing, it was a combination of like coconut and banana. I mean, I absolutely loved it. Now, I say this, and I've said this before with sweet beers, I would not have anything like that other than on a flight.
Right. You couldn't. I mean, could you imagine sitting there drinking a pint of that stuff? You'd be there for 2 hours.
No. In fact, I have a story that's coming up about how it impacted me
Okay.
about an hour later or so. But anyway, continue, sir, on what you got there at that paper.
Well, so remember we got I think both of us got that PB&J right out of the gate.
Yeah.
And he came back a little bit later and he gave us another pour of it. It was the same exact one.
Yeah.
But what he had done, he had kind of mixed the keg up a little bit because the first one we had, it had kind of settled all night.
Yeah.
And he kind of mixed it up and gave us another pour of it so we could try it side by side. And there definitely was a little bit of a difference. I think it was probably a little more balanced the second time just because it was a little more mixed, obviously. So that was cool. And he gave us a sample. I don't know if you remember this one. Rockin' the Rainbow Road, which I think is a Mario Kart tribute.
Yes.
The Rainbow Road track, which is a fruited Berliner with rainbow sherbet in it.
Uh-huh.
And it was freaking amazing. 4.3 on tap. It was freaking killer. You drink it, it's everything it says it is. It's great stuff. It's really great stuff. Dude, I would tell anybody, and I think Hill Tappers kind of told us, hey, you guys at some point have to get to Fabled. I'm going to say the same thing. Get to Fabled. It's amazing.
Oh my gosh, you would absolutely love it. Yeah.
Yeah. If you don't want that fruited sour stuff, they've got other stuff. They got New England IPAs. I had a pale ale. They got a red ale. You can get various things. We just tried kind of everything.
Yeah, and then I also had the Dawn Treater, which was another mead, and so I was like going mead crazy there, and I was like, oh my gosh, I got to try this. So it had like strawberries and oranges and like passion fruit in it. I liked it. I think after some of those other ones, the whole thing kind of reminded me last year. Remember we went to the melted snow cone kind of collaboration at Southern Grist when they had that, and we all tried like 3 or 4 back to back, and after a while, it was like, whoa, okay.
Yeah, they're heavy. You certainly can't see through them. Like there's definitely like puree and that one with rainbow sherbet. Like it looks like that stuff is in there, and it is. And they're delicious, but man, you can only take so much.
We can only take so much, but we had such a great time at Fabled. The only thing was
great service too. The bartender, and forgive me, I forgot his name. Man, he was nice to us, and he was like, "Here, try this and try this," and we just started talking, and just like you go anywhere and you start talking beer with someone, man, you start speaking the language, and people just warm up to you, and it's just a great time.
Yeah, extremely knowledgeable about the whole scene in Cincinnati and the beer scene and the brewery scene, and we had a great time. And time though was not on our side because we were like, okay, we were there for probably an hour. Kind of unusual for us to stay anywhere for an hour. But you know what? We went to a place where we went to the next place that was even less than an hour. Yeah.
Well, we left there. We had to go drop our stuff at the Airbnb. So we got rid of our stuff. We got all that shit done. And then continue. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So we got to the Airbnb. We're Ubering. And I mean, I'm looking at like traffic and I'm going, are we going to get there? Are we going to get there? So the original plan was to hit town. We were going to hit Fabled. And then we thought, we'll have plenty of time to kick off the pregame activities at Rhinegeist, one of our favorite breweries.
Yeah, hang out as long as we want.
Hang out on the rooftop. We'll have about 2 to 2.5, 3 hours.
Well, plenty of time. Shit, no rush.
Time. Scott, what happened?
What happened? Okay, so we had to kind of plan it because it was like, all right, we kind of knew we don't have a lot of time, but we are going to Rhinegeist, and we still had to get to the ballpark.
Yes.
Which we knew we weren't driving to. So, okay. So the best way, really, the most efficient way to get to the ballpark from Rhinegeist ultimately is the tram. So
that's right.
the tram, because it literally goes out front. So yes, we went to Rhinegeist after that. We knew we would be limited on time. We had at least one beer. We had one beer.
Only limited that I looked at the clock and it was around 4:00 when we got in and the game was at 5:10. And we got our beer. I got the Cincy Light Lime, which I really loved. And it's about 4:25. And I said, man, I don't think we have time for another, especially if we're taking the lovely streetcar.
That's right. And the thing is, like, there's no time. It's not like it comes in 4:12 every day. It's every so often, right? You don't even know when the last time was. It's roughly. look, now it's game time. Now the game's been moved up. And I was like, we got time for one more. And luckily, I listened to you, and we cashed out. We went outside, and what was it? 3 minutes later, we could hear the bell. We heard the bell coming. Like, oh yeah, this worked out perfect. So we caught the tram.
Gotta go. Well, and the streetcar, I think it's the furthest point. That's how far up. So for people who aren't familiar, the Cincinnati streetcar, you like to call it the trolley. Trolley, streetcar, whatever you want.
I'll call it 4 or 5 different things before this is over.
The free transportation that gets you around.
Tram. Yes, right.
Yeah, it takes you around basically a couple of points in Cincinnati, like down what they call the banks, by the ballpark up near over the Rhine, where Rhinegeist is. But it's sort of the further point. I really wish we had a camera. We did have a camera. We were taking pictures, but we should have videotaped our experience on the trolley, because there were jokes for days. After all that mead that I had, I started going in. I'm sitting there going, I think I might be going into a bit of a small diabetic coma here on the trolley. It really wasn't that big of a deal, but it was sort of funny. And I remember sitting on the trolley, and I'm thinking to myself, this trolley, it stops like every 200 feet.
Uh-huh.
Can we get out and push this thing a little bit further?
There's a couple of spots along the way you can walk faster than the trolley.
You can walk faster than the trolley.
In a few spots, yeah.
But you know what? We love the trolley. It's the second year that they've taken it.
So the best part about it, though, when you get there, it does let you off a block down from the ballpark. So you can't park as easily. Even the Uber, we've Ubered down there before, and you're still walking further away because they can't get to the damn thing. So the ride there aside, which actually wasn't as bad this time because the game had got moved up and a lot of people couldn't make the tram because they couldn't get there on time. It wasn't as busy, but it does stop every 200 feet.
It does.
But it lets you off, almost at the front door. So, it's pretty hard to be any more efficient than that.
No, it's a fun ride. It's a fun time down.
No, we didn't take it back. We didn't take it back.
But we made it. We made it just in time for the Reds game, and
it was actually perfect, Steve. We walked in at like 5:00. We walked in the building at 5:00, so we were great.
Yeah, we did. So we went to the Reds game, and I'll just mention this real quick. So the Reds game, as you know, I mentioned this last year on the podcast. We do one of the reasons we go up there. And I go up there is my family and we do a Reds outing every year at Great American Ballpark. We do it for my brother Mike, who passed away about 11 years ago. And my cousins and we always get together and we remember him. Mike Sullivan's safe at home night at the ballpark. And it was a great time, of course. And my cousin Kevin is the ringleader. And thanks, Kevin. We love you.
Yeah, thanks, Kevin. I always love Kevin.
Us up with the tickets.
He hooks up with tickets and then wants to buy us beer when we get in there. Like, hey, man, let us buy you a beer.
Wants to buy us beer. The bad thing that night was there were supposed to be about 16 of my cousins that were going to come, but half the ballpark was empty because, they had to move the game up a lot earlier. And so some of my cousins came a little bit later in the game. Some of them couldn't make it. One of my cousins came and it was like, 7th inning because they lived up in Mason. They were trying to come into town and hit some traffic and things like that. It was still good nights out of my brother. So that was, that was a lot of fun. The Reds won that night.
They did.
Go Reds. Yeah.
First of 3 of that series.
I know. Beat the Cleveland Indians. You don't live in Cleveland. You live in Cincinnati. That's
that was the old Sam White's, right? Was that Sam White's?
Yeah, exactly.
There you go.
Exactly.
There you go.
No, we had a fun time, and the cool thing was, Great American Ballpark up there. They do have a lot of great beer on tap, and that was my first check-in of the Great Lakes Midwest Hazy IPA, which is fairly new beer. And of course, we're going to be talking about Great Lakes on our next podcast. We still got something out there about Great Lakes, a little petition drive that people need to sign, right?
Yeah, we're gonna make a push on that in the next episode, really hard.
That's right. Sign it for us, people. Sign it for us. But no, that was great. I did have another beer that night, and I don't remember what it was. And I
don't either. I'm the same way.
No, I had another beer that night at the game. I just don't even remember what it was, and I didn't take pictures or anything like that. So.
Well, I can guarantee, because it was the same for me, it wasn't a new one, so you can rate it, but it wouldn't help your numbers necessarily. So yeah, I'm with you. I just had the one, but I had the same thing. I had the Hazy Midwest IPA too, which was pretty damn great. That was the first place I had it was Great American Ballpark.
Yeah.
Continue on with the game, because right after the game was over, because all this weather was going to move in, what happened immediately after the game was over? Because it was a Friday night, and what happens on Friday nights after the game?
Oh, they have fireworks, and I think the game ended. It was probably at about maybe 7:30. Because I even said, I mean, we were talking about it's like the umpires are going to get this game over. The managers aren't going to go out and argue any calls. There's not going to be any pitching changes. They're getting this game over with, because by the time it looked like it was probably 7:30, 8 o'clock. You could tell there was a sea of clouds coming into downtown Cincinnati.
And the wind was picking up.
It looked like it was going to ravage hell on the weather. And as soon as the game ended, man, those fireworks went off. I mean, I'm not even sure they called whatever it is, they call strike 3 or whatever, and the fireworks are going off, and it's like, good night, everybody, we're out of here. So
not only are they going off, it's still broad daylight.
It's broad daylight.
Which is the funniest part of the thing. But hey, man, people stuck around to watch them. People did not leave until those fireworks were done.
No, but great call, because we have sat there before. There's nothing worse than sitting at a baseball ballpark and you have a rain delay that goes on for hours and hours and hours. So
which if they hadn't moved it up, which looked like it was going to happen, they would have started the game on time, I think, but middle of the way, weather would have broken, or lightning or something, right? And then delay, and then you're stuck there, and the game got in, and we were all the better for it.
That's right. They got the game in, so we got out of there, and we went to seek refuge in one of our favorite places down there at Yardhouse. I mean,
so did everybody else,
and we went down there. We're like, you know what? Let's not even try to bother Ubering anybody anywhere right now. Let's just go about 100 yards down the way, run in the Yardhouse, sit in there for a while. It never actually did storm in that area. I mean, there was a lot of bad weather, I think, that went south Cincinnati. We got pretty lucky that night. We kind of ended the night at Yardhouse.
We did. And I remember talking to the staff in there, and I kind of asked them about the whole, because a lot of times we pregame at Yardhouse. We did not this time, obviously. But I said, what does the moving up the game do for you guys? And they said it kind of sucks because they don't have staff ready to come on at, for a 5-10 game. So they got real busy ahead of time. They were real busy afterwards. So they're kind of playing catch up the whole time. But hey, they did a great job. We love Yardhouse. We got taken care of, and they kicked ass. They always do. And we always appreciate them. And you can't beat the location from the ballpark.
Yes, absolutely. Well, the theme of the whole day after we got done was a few things, but the biggest was, can we really only go to Rhinegeist for only a half hour?
Should we leave them in suspense and see if we ever got back?
Did we ever go back there?
We went back. Okay. Spoiler, we went back.
Spoiler, did we go?
Not directly, but it's coming. Yeah, it's coming.
Did we actually go back? Well, the other funny thing was, I said, of all the times I've been up there for anything, whether I've gone up there and, I'm like visiting family and I'm in a hurry, I don't know if there's ever a brewery that I've gone to, even when I've been in a hurry, that I've only lasted a half hour. And of all places, it's like, how many people can say they went to Rhinegeist? You only went in there for a half hour and you had to get the hell out of here.
Yeah. The way I look at it, though, it was a bonus stop. We knew we were going to spend time there eventually. We got a bonus stop. We snuck in one more is kind of how I'm looking at it.
Yeah.
If we didn't go back, I'd have been like, shit, we only got Rhinegeist once. But we snuck another one in along the way.
We did.
Yeah, so, that's how I'm looking at it.
So yeah, it was a pretty awesome day, on that Friday, and then Saturday we got up and we had the plan. I always loved this plan because we were going to go to a Reds game on that Saturday night, and this was May 17th. And I always think like the Northern Kentucky Loop, kind of the South Loop, so to speak, is a really great area because there are so many breweries over there. You've got Braxton, you got West Six, you got Darkness, you've got Wooden Cask, Hawkbar House. I mean, I'm probably not even mentioning everything. But it is a bounty of options And there was even a craft beer festival down the street
Right.
from Braxton that we didn't even go to, but we knew about when we got up there.
Yeah, because we had other things to do.
Yeah.
And I say better things to do because we were going to the breweries directly. So,
Well, that's true.
do I love beer fest? And of course I do. I live for that. But fuck, when you go to the damn brewery directly, it's like, let's just go do that.
It's like, yeah, your beer fest. It's great.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Our whole goal today is breweries. So we're going to breweries.
Let's go to the source. Right. And so you mentioned, Braxton, we go to Braxton first on that Saturday, right after breakfast, which was Press on Monmouth, by the way. We always like that place.
Love it. Yep.
Uh-huh. But we go to Braxton first because you know what we love about Braxton, Steve?
Braxton in Covington, they've got that rooftop.
Yes, they do.
And yes, we score all day long on the Braxton rooftop. Anytime we could ever go there, we can. And the first thing I noticed when we were walking in the door, I said, you know what? Since the last time I was here and last time you were there, it's more spacious outside now. I mean, they've got a lot of comfortable chairs out there and everything else. And
you're talking about right in the front when you walk in.
In the front,
right?
yeah. And I don't know if they just expanded that and they just started doing it, probably because the place is always crowded. So, we get in there and we got up on the rooftop. I will say on this day, it was a little more windy than usual. It's a good thing that I don't wear a toupee or anything like that because, by God, my toupee would have blown off that day on the rooftop.
Yeah. It was windy. Still a beautiful day. Otherwise, there were some benefits to the windy. We'll just leave that alone. But we saw.
I see what you did there. Yes, sir.
Yeah. When I was making notes about this today, Steve, I was remembering we are always one of the first people at Braxton when we go. Every time we go, we are one of the first people in there. We're always there right around when they open.
Yeah, it seems like it works out that way. I think we were there. I think they opened about 11. We got there probably between 11:30 and noon.
Yeah, a handful of people were kind of, we had our pick of spots up on the rooftop, which were great. And it filled in quite a bit right afterwards. It looked like there were a lot of graduation parties or something going on, and it filled in quite a bit up there. Everybody had the same idea we did.
Yeah.
Again, aside from the wind, it was a beautiful day and a great way to start the day, just up on a rooftop. And every time I go, and I tell you this every time I go, and I'm going to do it one day, I want to take a nap up there. I just want to take a nap for 30 or 40 minutes on the Braxton rooftop.
Yeah, they're right next to there. There's some condos, and I always think that maybe that would be like the perfect place if you're working from home or something. That somebody comes in and you're working from your condo. You could just walk up there and sit in one of the lounge chairs and just, doze off.
I know. And they got music going, right? And those days we've been up there and there's been nobody there, and we sit there like it's just a nice, beautiful day. It's like 72. The music's in the background, and like it's just quiet. Like, just give me a hammock and a beer.
Give me a hammock. Let me just sit here. Yeah, I know. So there was I got a flight from this place, and you know what? I did get a West Coast lager on my flight from Braxton.
All right. Okay.
Now, wasn't my favorite of the entire trip, but it was pretty good. They're classic West Coast lager, so I got that. The other one I want to talk about was, Braxton, they usually do each year a collab with Grater's Ice Cream. Last year they did that lemon meringue pie, which was off the charts. Fantastic for me.
Spectacular, yeah.
When I saw the one that they had on tap, I had to ask the guy that was working there, and I'm like, so this would have been even way before I started rating my beers. And I think this was their very first collab that they ever did. It's Grater's Black Raspberry Chocolate Chip Milk Stouts. I remember the first time I had it, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm not sure about this. And I was wondering what it would be like again after a few years. Did they do anything different, anything like that? Now, I will have to say, of the greatest collabs that I've had, not my most favorite one. I liked it. I could taste more of the, the black raspberry. Didn't taste as much of the chocolate in there. A little bit of the ice cream. Not sure if I saw it again, I would necessarily go back for it, but I'm glad I got it.
Yeah, and I think you were in that mindset of, hey, let's see if it's any different, if it's
Yeah.
better, worse. Do I think anything different? Is my palate change? Any of that kind of stuff? It was kind of the same for you, right? It
Yeah.
didn't get better, didn't get worse. It was just kind of the same as you'd had before.
I think I liked it a little bit more than I
A
did
little
the first
more,
time.
okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say it's slightly better than the first time I had it, but that's going back probably, gosh, probably 7 or 8 years ago was the first time I had it.
Yeah. I remember I was talking to an Uber driver about it one of the first times I was up there about he didn't have a big opinion on it either. But
Yeah,
yeah, I
yeah.
didn't get it this time. I thought about getting it. I just stuck with pints on this particular trip. But yeah, when they said nothing had really changed, I was like, maybe another time or something. So tried
Yeah.
some other things they had. But I'll tell you one that I really liked was they had a Czech lager. It's called Check This Out, Dad.
Yeah.
Phenomenal. I did two lagers. I think I did that same West Coast lager you did, that Czech, and then like a Belgian blonde or something. I just did pints. But man, it's just you could drink. I won't say you could drink Miller Lite on that rooftop, but because I wouldn't. But to be on that rooftop just adds another level of the experience, right? It's just
Depending on the company, I would drink a Miller Lite on that rooftop.
yeah,
Yeah.
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 It'd be really good company, but yeah,
Yeah, that'd be really
yeah.
good company. My first
Just being on
question
that
to her would
rooftop.
be, "Do you have a beach house?" Okay, I will.
No, she would have already had to have had the beach house for to drink a Miller
Yeah,
Lite.
exactly. I will drink a Miller Lite with you on the Braxton rooftop. Absolutely.
Yeah. So my point is just ultimately just anything you add anything to that rooftop just makes it better. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just a great experience. So anyway,
Yeah. No, I had the check this out, Dad, with Braxton too, and it was really good. So yeah, we spent a couple hours there on the old Braxton rooftop, and they were actually by the time we went on to our second brewery of the day. It was probably about 2:30, and it was starting to get really
yeah,
crowded up there. So it's not surprising though. I mean, I think we've been there before later in the evening. It's been a while, but man, I think if you go over there, it probably, especially during the summer months, the warmer months, if you go over there, probably 7, 8 o'clock on a Saturday night, man, good luck. I mean, trying to find a spot there. So
yeah, it's hopping. Like, I mean, you can get food there too, so it just adds to the whole thing and it draws people in. You
yeah,
know,
yeah,
and I know you're getting ready to talk about it, but man, we went to a place right after this that was also spectacular in its own way for multiple reasons. The first reason is because it's around the corner.
it's around the corner, walking distance.
Literally.
I mean, you could almost see it from the brewery.
You can. What's it called?
West Sixth. So
Covington House.
yeah,
Yes, West
Covington
6
House.
Covington.
West Six. They are located out of Lexington, Kentucky. I had only had like one beer from them before. They had a little setup down at Newport on the Levee, and they may still have that. They opened up a brewery, right around the corner from Braxton.
Yeah.
And the first thing that struck me as we were walking up to it, I said, "I think this thing used to be a firehouse."
Mm-hmm.
And walked in, asked the girl in there, and she said, "Yeah, a long time ago, it had been a number of things since that time." And I said to you, I said, "This is kind of useless trivia, but this is the third brewery in a year that I've been to that
Yep.
used to be a firehouse."
Yep. So you're on a West Coast IPA and former firehouse road trip?
Yeah, can we just combine all those? That'd be really cool.
It seems we are. No, you're right. The place is beautiful. Like, I mean, and it looks like a firehouse. And like you said, it was a few things before that. But man, the layout of it's beautiful. Even the ceiling had wood on the ceiling. Like it was just
Yeah,
done up right. And I don't know if that's been there from the previous places, but it's, you know what, to me, and I said it a few times where we're sitting there, they made an investment in that place. Not
hmm,
just, hey, here's a spot we're going to put some beer in. They plan on being there for a while. Like that is a
yeah,
beautiful, beautiful spot. They have really good beer. I've had West Six in a few places. I think they're out of Lexington ultimately. I've been to that spot, but man, they're part of the community there. They want to be there, and I think it's a great thing to be around the corner from Braxton. Just exactly like what we did. We left one and we walked to the other one.
yeah. Very, very convenient. And we,
Yeah.
when I saw a while back that because they've only been open over the past year or so, and when I saw a while back where the location was, I'm like, well, that's perfect. All we have to do
Yep.
is walk right over there after we go to Braxton. So
We love those things. We've talked about it many times. We love going to a place and there's another place because
yeah,
we're gonna do both places. We're not gonna pick one. We're going to both of them. So, which is exactly what that did. So it added that. And Man, they got a, I don't think it's really part of them, but in the same building. Because I said, "Is there an upstairs?" And she goes, "Yeah, there's an upstairs. It's called the second story."
Yeah.
So as you go in the front door, you go left into West 6, or you keep going up the stairs and you go into this other place, and it's a cocktail bar.
Yeah.
And what she said, yeah, it's called Second Story. It's separate from us. When we kick them out of the brewery at whatever time they close, we send them upstairs to the cocktail place because they're still open. So
yeah.
Yeah,
and I won't talk about everything that I had on my on the flight from there. It was all good. There was one that I found to be a little bit wacky, and this one kind of stood out for me. I didn't have too many wacky beers on the entire trip, but this one, basically I went in and I looked at the board. It was kind of sight unseen. I'm like, You know what? I'm just gonna order. I'm not gonna sit there and get on my Untapped app or anywhere else, and because I haven't had that much West 6. So, we're guys that we just like trying different things. This one was called, it was a sour, and it's called the Feisty Fuego. And this thing was whacked out, man. But the funny thing is, I've looked at ratings and other people have rated it higher. Wasn't exactly my thing. I started drinking it, and you expect it to be a sour, but it does say feisty. And then all of a sudden I went, what am I tasting? I'm tasting pepper. What the heck? And I looked at you and I said,
they had pepper in a sour?
This thing is spicy. It's got pepper in it. It's fruity. And I'm like, that Feisty Fuego. Okay. The name of that makes sense. Not for me. I doubt I would ever have it again. Everything else, I had a Kolsch, I had a porter, I even had a cider there, and they were all good. But the Feisty Fuego, man, that thing was a wacky beer. I'm sure there are people that love that thing. I was like, nah, I don't know if that's for me, but that's okay. We still enjoyed the experience at West 6.
They got the name right? The feisty part.
They did.
That kept coming up in our conversation as we were talking about the beer as you were drinking it. Yeah, they came and sampling it. I go, yeah, that's pretty right. It's pretty right.
Yeah, pretty. Yeah. What's going on here?
Yeah. Thank God you didn't get a pint of it. We'd still be there.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I was like, what the heck is going on here? Yeah.
I'm almost done.
No, I think the other thing is, if I had I opted for the pint, I probably would have opted to do a little more research. But on a flight, sometimes you're like, okay. If it, and I probably could have gone up and said, can you just give me a little taster of this? But we like, sometimes we like doing flights on certain things as well. So it was all right. It all worked out really well.
You can get through 4 ounces.
Yeah, it really was epic of you.
It's not, you can get through 4 ounces. I'll tell you what I did like about pretty much every place we've been, but the different styles. I mean, IPAs, lagers, what you just talked about. I had a stout over there. I mean, they had all sorts of styles on the board. So they had some crazy stuff. They had a sour, I think, and Covington House lager. I had a lot of lagers on this trip, but just, kind of something for every kind of beer lover, different styles for different people. So even somebody that, wants a feisty beer.
If somebody wants a Feisty Fuego, go there. Go get it.
That's the place to go. But we really enjoyed it. They had a nice, I don't just did they have like tables stuff. We had a nice little seating area we sat in right there by the front door. Yeah.
Yeah, very enjoyable. So we
were
over there
cool place.
So we were over there for a little bit, and I knew that there was a decent chance, because as we said at the beginning of this podcast, we're generally not guys, unless we're in a hurry, that are staying at a brewery for just like an hour. And I knew we probably had time, pregame and before the Reds game, to hit 3 breweries, maybe 4. I want to say Wooden Cask. We love you, Wooden Cask. We've been to Wooden Cask before. We will be back. We didn't make it to Wooden Cask in Newport this particular time.
It was a game time decision.
But the other thing was, the next stop was Darkness over in Bellevue, because I was almost embarrassed. The last time I was in town. I've been up in town. I went to Darkness for the first time, and I had heard so many people tell me, why have you not been to Darkness Brewery? And of course, it's right over by Party Store. So it's like, duh, why didn't you go there? Why haven't you guys been there? And so that was a definite on the list that we were going to go to Darkness. That was my second time. That was your first time. And it was at Darkness that we met up with a lot of great people in the beer community.
Sure did. So Zach, who we've been communicating with from 513 Craft Brew Cincy, met up with us there because we've been trying to coordinate where we're going to meet before the game because they were going to the game too. Met us up. We did a little beer exchange there. He had some friends that came in, met up, and just had a cool time, man. We just hung out and tried some stuff. Again, my first time, so I'm just kind of looking around like, oh, this place is amazing. Oh, look at that, and look at this, and look at that. Taking all these kinds of pictures. But it was a cool vibe, man. It was really cool, and a lot going on because there were a lot of people coming in that we're meeting and sharing beers with and things. But it went by pretty quickly. But it was a really cool vibe, and I really liked the place. It's another place I want to go back to and spend a little more time in.
Oh, I agree. And shout out to Zach in Cincinnati and all the gang.
Yep.
The beer community that we got to meet up with, and I was really excited because of my friend Dave Brinker.
That's right, Dave. Yeah, that's right, Dave.
Dave, known him forever. He met us there because he was going to the Reds game, and I'm almost embarrassed to even tell people how many years I've known that guy. Almost virtually all my life. We went through kindergarten together. I mean, it goes back that many years. So it was cool.
He's a great dude too. I've hung out with him twice. He's just a great dude.
Yeah, and he came, and I laughed because he had a Cleveland Indians jersey on, but I also remember that it was a Ricky Vaughn jersey from Major League, and he's a big, as I am too, and you are, a Major League fan of that movie. And so it was kind of funny. It's like, Dave, you're going to a Reds game. Why do you have, okay, that makes sense. Ricky Vaughn, Cleveland. Yeah, so it was great. So we had a lot of great beer there at Darkness. And again, talk about the ambience of Darkness, your first time there.
Cool, man. The artwork, just the stuff on the walls was cool. Like a lot of Star Wars themed stuff. I mean, one of the beers was called Ray Gun. Another one was Han Rolo.
Which I rated a brown ale, and I rated that pretty high. So that was really good. And also had their Explore Mixed Berry Amber Sour and Man on the Moo, which was they were all really good. So
everything's good. Yeah, just the decor is cool. Everything kind of themed. I don't know if it's all Star Wars, but there's a lot of Star Wars stuff in the Darkness thing. Just a cool vibe, and I think everybody that goes in there knows it's cool. If you're here, you're cool, kind of thing. So.
Well, and it's kind of a small family-owned brewery there, and it's in an older building. But I mean, they usually have about 8 beers on tap there. They have a food truck out in the front, and they also have another area where I think certain times during the year, and maybe that night, where you can go in. They got bands coming in for music and everything. So I would say all day, every day, if you've not been to Darkness, go to Darkness over in Bellevue, Kentucky. That place is legit.
It's legit, and the beer was not just the names of the beer. The beer was really damn good too.
Yes,
so I got to sample several of them. So it was, cool spot. It's a shame we hadn't gone before, but we know that's a priority kind of every time from here on out.
We do,
at least, it's fantastic. So glad we finally got there. I'm glad I finally got there.
Well, the first time I went there, that was another one where I was sort of in a hurry and was in there for like 45 minutes, getting a quick beer and getting out. So it was just cool to spend more time in there this particular time, taking in more of their beer.
Another one I recommend and checked off the list. I feel good about going to these places when you get to a lot of places that you want to go to. That was high on the list, and say, okay, we did that one too. Awesome.
Yeah, we took Darkness off the list. So we pre-gamed there, and we went to the Reds game and saw another Reds victory that night. That was fantastic. I hadn't had this one for a while, and I know even though they're no longer in business, their beer is still being distributed. I had the Gavel Banger from Tap Brewing.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I actually had a new one over there, too. It was Hoperteric IPA from Brink. I found another one over there I hadn't had at the Reds game.
All right.
Hoperteric over there. So that was great. And I know I had another one after that. I don't know what it was. It wasn't new, so I just left it.
That's okay. And I may have had some cheese conies from Skyline chili at the game, by the way.
What's funny is because I was thinking the other day, I thought, we only stopped at Skyline once, but you got Skyline more than once. So you found a way.
I did.
You found a way.
I always do. Where there's a will, there's a way, and Skyline chili is everywhere up there. On every street corner. If you called somebody and walked out in front of your house and said, "Can you get me some Skyline?" They would probably come up and,
no doubt.
Here's the thru right now.
And I'm not going to give real details, but I remember sitting at the game and you were kind of talking a lot of shit about the team you were beating. So I have video. I've not put it up or anything, but you were talking a lot of shit. You were feeling pretty good in that game.
Well, I mean, we were our friends in Cleveland who we met up with, and we'll talk about on the next trip. And they are Cleveland Guardian fans, or are they still the Indians, Keith? But yeah, so there were some bragging rights on the line. We won the Ohio Cup, and the Reds actually swept the Guardians / Indians that weekend. Yes. So go Reds.
Sure did. Good showing.
Yes. Yeah. So it was a good time all around. And then we had one last trek of the night.
I'm going to tell you begin, and then I
can't take it. I'm not sure I can take this story.
Okay, so we leave the Reds game, right? And we're going to go to March 1st, the downtown March 1st, right?
We were going to meet the Hill Tappers.
Yeah, we're just going to leave there, and we're going to walk over to March 1st, right? Because it's just right there.
Yeah, we were.
It's right, and yeah. So this is my recollection. So I leave, and I'm waiting outside by the bike racks for you and Dave.
Go ahead.
I'm waiting. We get separated somewhere. There's a lot of people coming out, and I'm waiting outside for Steve at the bike rack, and I don't see Steve or Dave or anything. So I go, I'll just walk over to March 1st because Steve knows where he's going. It's just right here. He'll find it. He's probably there already. So I get in there. I'm looking around. No Steve at all. So I'm like, he'll be here anytime, whatever. So I can only like kind of rebroadcast what you told me what happened after that. But tell us about your journey from Great American Ballpark to March 1st downtown.
I'm just gonna leave it there. I ended up there.
Huh?
I ended up there on March 1st and had some beers with you guys.
Was it planes, trains, and automobiles to get to March 1st?
Well, my story goes like this. Apparently, you didn't hear me after the Reds game because we were leaving, and my buddy David, I said, I got to go use the restroom. So we're going to the bathroom, hang out, wait for us, and I guess you didn't hear us. So when I walked out, I'm looking around. We're like, where's Scott at? And I texted you, and you're like, walking to March 1st. I'm like, all right. So the ballpark is about a half mile or so at Fountain Square. Well, I'm really telling on myself. I'm falling on the sword here.
Come on, it's okay.
In the middle of downtown Cincinnati, it's a freaking landmark, for God's sakes. And I usually can get around anywhere. So Dave's wife was picking him up the next block. So I walk on up, and I got this is where common sense did not take over in my life. This is a night that I had no common sense whatsoever. I had my map app up on my phone, like, where you're walking, this is where it is or whatever. I knew it was on Fountain Square, but I didn't know exactly where at Fountain Square. And so, I'm walking, and I'm not paying that much attention to where I'm going as far as I cross the street. And my map app has me walking, I think it's on 4th Street or something. And I walk around the whole damn block, and I'm like, what's going on here? Where is it? Where is it?
It used to be right here.
It should be here. I had not been there before. Well, I actually had been there when it was
Rock
Bottom. So, but that was a long time ago. And so I don't know. So I'm walking, and then all of a sudden I'm thinking I'll get there. This is fine. And I look down at my phone. Again, I'm looking more at my phone. I'm depending on more on my phone than common sense. And I think
I will say this: there are a lot of buildings around, so the signals kind of get effed up.
I'll get to that in a moment. I think a lot of times if you're using like a Waze app and it tells you to go down a certain street and you realize that street is a dead end, why is Waze telling me to go that way? So you're not going to go that way? I should have done that, but no. Instead, I keep looking at it, and all of a sudden it has me walking on the other side, and I'm looking and I'm looking and I'm looking. And by this time, I'm almost 2 blocks over. And I got so mad, so irritated. I just said, the heck with this. I'm just calling an Uber. And so I got around to the Uber and got up there, and I finally found it.
So okay, so ultimately you took an Uber from Great American Ballpark to March 1st.
Yeah, basically.
Downtown. Okay, yeah. Which is what, less than a half a mile.
Oh yeah.
But you got there, which was important. That was important. I couldn't remember if the Hill Tappers got there before you or you got there before. You got there before.
I walked in there right before them.
You did get there.
Yeah, I walked in there right before them, so it was a lot of fun.
It's a good story. It's good content. It's a good story.
Hey, so that ended our night, but before we start into the next day, we have a special guest.
Me? I've been here the whole time.
We have a special guest who has joined, who was gonna join, and now she's here. Can you introduce yourself, special guest?
Well, just like on this road trip up to Cincinnati, I like to pop in and out around my work schedule. So popping on into this podcast. Hi, I'm Liz from Everyday I'm Bubbling, and happy to be here with y'all.
Our Cincinnati correspondent.
She's a BUPA award winner.
She is.
Very proud BUPA award winner.
Cincinnati correspondent. Well, Liz, welcome. When I saw the EE pop up, I was like, yay.
Made
it. We're just about getting to the part where you actually show up on this trip.
Yeah, your timing is actually impeccable.
Timing is everything.
I'm telling you.
Your timing is actually impeccable because we just finished off talking about our Friday and Saturday in Cincinnati, and we're about to get into Sunday, and that's when we met up with you.
Yeah.
Yes. So we'll get into that. So we cruised through Friday, we cruised through Saturday, we hit some new breweries, and then we hit through Sunday.
Well, hang on real quick. I did mention the Hill Tappers. So Tom and Brad from the Hill Tappers from Louisville rode into town. They were doing some stuff earlier after we got out of the ball game. They met us at March 1st and then kind of began the shenanigans for the next few days with those guys as well.
It did, yeah. and Liz was part of the shenanigans.
Of course, certainly.
Off and on, because we know that she is the hardest working woman in show business in Cincinnati, but she still managed to hang out with us for a couple of days, and she gave it more of an effort than the Reds give sometimes. But
more than the Guardians gave.
Or the Guardians game, that's right. But, we had mentioned at the beginning of this podcast that one of the places that does brunch is Sonder Brewing. And so we decided on that Sunday, let's go to Sonder. Actually, your original idea, Scott, was let's go to Bob Evans. And it was Tom, the Hill Tappers, that texted and said, do we really want to go to Bob Evans on a Sunday? And I'm like, yeah, why the heck do we want to go to Bob Evans on a Sunday when we go to brunch? Take out the middleman. Thank you, Liz. Take out the middleman and just hit Sonder right off the bat. So that's what we did.
Well, I just knew you needed breakfast, so I just threw out Bob Evans.
Yeah.
No, Sonder was great for breakfast.
Sonder was great for breakfast. Liz, have you ever been to Sonder for breakfast?
No, I've eaten lunch there. Had a good few things off their lunch menu, but I cannot say I've had breakfast there or brunch.
Very good. And I think all four of us got the same thing, Steve. I think we all got that egg sandwich. It was about 1.5 feet tall.
I think it was incredible.
It was incredible. It was really good. It was really good.
Would you guys drink to pair with this?
Oh, gosh. Let's see. Steve, why don't you start with what you had that day?
I had a couple flights that day. So, I had like a flight of like the Rally Cab, Talk to Me Spruce, which is their one of their IPAs, the Hornet's Nest, the Honey Beer. I had their Bach, the William Goat. I had so many different things. I'll tell you the other one I had on a flight. Returning for the second time I've ever had this. I probably won't have it again, but, have to go back in time. The root beer that I got on a flight, and I had that a couple of years ago at Sonder. And I think that's sort of a bit of a homage that they do, little collab to Kings Island, if I'm not mistaken.
And it's actual beer, not root beer?
It tastes like root beer. but
it's
there
beer.
is beer in it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Yeah.
Clever.
It's very sweet.
Yeah. Skip that one altogether.
Ah.
Although,
That's
but I did
like
have a weird
epitome nostalgia from childhood. You got to have the root beer.
I know. I mean, I used to like root beer. It's just one of those things now when you grow older, it's like I just can't get through a root beer anymore. But it tastes exactly what it is. I mean, it tastes like a root beer.
Steve, would you add ice cream and make a root beer float?
Maybe I should try that. I may give you an idea, and then you're going to want to try that with me, right? I see where you're going there.
I mean, when in Sonder, why not?
Liz, you know what? For you, with you, I would try that sometime. How's that?
In a box with a fox.
And pineapple on pizza, of course.
We didn't even have any pizza our whole trip up there. I don't know why, but that didn't happen.
Gonna have to deliver the La Rosas the next time.
I know it. But you know, Scott, when we got there, we always talk about the brewery experience. There was a lot of brewery experience going on at Sonder that day. There was like a big parade going on that we were all fascinated watching.
Like the family walk they were having or something.
Yes.
It was a family walk and everybody was dressed up in these blow up animal costume outfits.
Yes.
From flamingos to Pokemon to I don't know what the other things were, but there was a lot of it was very family friendly, and they walked around the building a few times. And I think when the kids finished, they got a free beer or something when they walked around 4 times.
When the kids finished?
When the kids finished, really?
The children?
Yeah.
The under 21ers?
It was a reward. If you walked around 4 times, you got a beer out of it. Was a root beer.
It was a root beer.
Uh-huh.
A real root beer, not a root beer.
It was a root beer beer.
Or were parents recruiting their kids to walk around the building for them so they could be like, here, Dad, I walked around 4 times. Here's your beer.
I don't know. I saw the kids drinking them. I don't know.
I don't know, man.
Hey, not my kids. I don't care.
Hey, don't get Sonder in trouble. I don't think that
was. No.
There was just a lot of...
There was a family thing going on where they did walk around thing, and then the families all kind of hung out. The families, the adults drank beer afterwards.
Exactly.
But it was cool. Everybody was dressed up in their outfits and costumes and things. It was pretty cool to watch.
Well, Sonder is always a fun time. I mean, it's one of my favorite breweries up there, and we always try to get up there when we hit town.
Well, yeah. Here you want to talk about a weird one. So here's one I had up there, and Jeff's Jams is a series that they do, and I've had other versions of it. But Volume 9 was a IPA spicy berry cobbler with cinnamon and habanero. And it was pretty good to start with, and I wasn't quite sure how it ended. I rated it early on, thankfully, but it was a little weird.
Yeah.
It was a little weird. But.
You know what beer they still have on tap up there that you did not like last year was
it spicy?
Roland.
It had all the things. It was a little spicy. The habanero always gets you back here. The cinnamon was weird. The cobbler was weird, but it was an IPA at the same time. So it had the hops in there too. It was weird. It kept getting weirder as I drank it. But anyway, I got through it. So what were you saying, Steve?
Well, no, I was saying that they had the See Me Rollin' that's still on that the cinnamon beer that they have up there. It's still on tap that you had last year that I liked and you did not like. I didn't get it this time.
It sounds like it might be rolling, but Scott's still hating.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
It's probably the same. It's probably the same keg it was last year when I was there. I bet they haven't changed it yet. Anyway, I digress. Next.
Well, wait, I was gonna tell you guys. I may not have been at that brewery with you, but I did try a Sonder beer down at Taste of Cincinnati last weekend. Did you guys get to try Divot?
I've had Divot before. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
It was like quintessential summer kickoff beer. You know, it's a lemonade and iced tea ale. So it has a cool little logo of Ohio and a golf course and a golf flag on there with a little lemon wedge. So it seemed like a quintessential beer to kick off summer at the Memorial Day weekend for me. So I know that was way after seeing you guys, but I felt like I had to play catch up and go visit Sonder down at the Taste.
I think that's maybe one of their signature beers that they bring out every year. I'm pretty sure that I've seen Divot for a couple of years now.
Well, it will definitely be on patios everywhere this summer. It's a good, refreshing, light beer. Yeah, you can't go wrong.
Giant fan of Sonder, so anything they do except for that "See Me Rolling," I'm a fan of.
Well, that's okay. Like I said,
See me rolling away.
I've had my encounter now with the root beer float ale beer. Mm-hmm. I've had it twice on a flight. Nobody
He's gonna get it a third time with a scoop of ice cream.
Ah, yes, that's right. At the Cincinnati Zoo sometime, Liz. That's where we're going.
Right.
That's where we're gonna go get it.
Because they have a beer stand at the Cincinnati Zoo. So yeah, we'll report back.
You're selling me on this. I know we're lions and tigers and beer. Oh my! Let's see what I did there.
That was actually pretty good.
Thank you. I just came off the top of my head. I got jokes for days. But no, it was awesome to kick off Sonder, and then after that, Scott, we hit another new brewery. This had been on the list for a while.
Yeah.
This was
highly recommended. Highly recommended.
Mm-hmm. Was in Loveland. It was Narrow Path, and I have to say I was really surprised because for some reason in my head I knew it was around bike trails, but I thought, okay, Narrow Path, it's going to be off like the side of a road. There'll be a path, and then there'll be some woods, and we're going through it, and I'm like, this is anything but. I mean, it's a little hustle and bustle community. I mean, Liz, you've probably been to Narrow Path in Loveland, right?
I actually have not.
You have not? Okay.
But by the time I met up with you, you guys were on to the next one. So didn't make it.
That's okay.
Next time.
Steve, it's a great spot, and I learned something. So that bike trail, so where Narrow Path is, it's either call it the end or the beginning of this bike trail. It goes 70 miles, by the way.
Wow, did not know that.
And it's they call it part of the Little Miami Scenic Trail or something. 70 miles. So it's either right at the beginning or right at the end, depending on which way you're going. And they are in a prime spot for this thing. You get off the trail, and the backyard of Narrow Path is right there. Like I would say, hey,
bike and brew.
Yes, I would probably pretend like I'm going to go biking and just go to the brewery and never actually get to the biking part. But it's awesome.
It is awesome. And, we were there with the Hill Tappers, and we probably sat out in the patio out there probably for a good 2 hours at least, 75-degree weather. And there were so many people out there. The only thing I wondered about was the brewery inside doesn't seem like it's the biggest. So I kind of wonder how they handle a lot of those things in the colder months. You probably have to get there early. But just a great tap list. I mean, I had a couple of things there that day, and just a couple of things. I had their Irish red and their Mexican lager, and the theme, that's another theme. I had a lot of Mexican lagers on my trip, and their Mexican
I was going to say the same thing. Yep.
Yeah, their Mexican lager was really good that day. So really enjoyed it, and they had a food truck out there. I mean, just a lot going on at that brewery, Narrow Path. So we had a really good time there.
And to your point, I bet you could fit 5 times as many people outside as you can fit inside that place.
Yeah.
Like that day was perfect. Everybody was out sitting outside. There were people inside, but it was it was one of those perfect experiences. A perfect weather day. Company was okay. We had decent company.
That's because I wasn't there.
No, we love the Hill Tavern. No, it was a perfect, great day, and just everything just added to the experience. And
what was your perfect patio beer to go with this perfect day?
The one I liked, I think the most. They had an English Descent, which is like an ESB, which I got at the very tail end of it. But man, they had everything. They had amber lagers. They had red ale. They had a coconut porter, an IPA. They had everything. But the English ESB is the thing I liked the best.
Yeah, and I liked their Mexican lager quite a bit. I thought that was really good. So yeah,
it's on par for summer, Steve. On par for summer.
Yeah, I know. Good drinking beer to sit out there.
Did you get a lime wedge with it?
Yeah, I think I did. Yeah. So we had it going on there, and then we were trying to figure out after Narrow Path where we should go next, and that's where Liz came in because she was texting us all kinds of options. And the thing I love about Liz is that one of the things I love about Liz the most is that if you want to know anything about Cincinnati, Like if you said, where can I go? I'm up in this little small area of Cincinnati. Where can I go and just get like a truffle? You would know.
I just wanted to give you guys options. I didn't know, as the, hopping in on the middle of this adventure, I didn't know where you had been all yet that day. And so I was like, well, where are you? How far are you going? And where can I recommend from there? So I like to give options because you never know what everybody's in the mood for. And I know you guys friend. It wasn't just the two of you, it was also the guys from Louisville. So, just trying to give the group options in case someone's like, no, that's not my jam, throwing out Cincinnati options.
We don't even know where to find jam. If I said, Liz, where do we find jam in Cincinnati? She could give us a good recommendation.
Farmers Market, Finley.
There you go. See, we should do that one day. We'll do a quick ring the bell. Yeah. Where else can you get this stuff?
You guys can go to Finley Farmers Market, the zoo.
I did tell you guys, I was like, let me plan a day. You'll have a real random adventure, but you'll love it.
It'll definitely be fun. Well, next on the list was actually a brewery where Liz and I had gone a couple of months ago. And we returned, boys and girls, to one of our favorite breweries in Cincinnati. I don't think I've ever gotten a bad beer here. And that would be Listerman, across from Xavier University.
I know I accidentally wore my Bearcat hat, but I apologize to the bartender on the way in.
One of the beers I had there was called All for One, and it was a Pilsner, and it was made for Xavier, by the way, because it's literally
that's a very Musketeer reference.
Right. And if you look at the picture on Untapped, it's an X. So throwing that out there.
Well, and there may have been a video that was taken at Listerman that was sent to our friends in Cleveland of me with a broom sweeping. I think you handed a broom to me because the Reds had swept the Guardians / Indians.
Oh, is that why you were? I thought you were just helping out.
Yeah, you thought I was just like part of the janitorial staff.
Yeah, no, just helping out the team. You had a purpose.
Steve's a good citizen of the world.
That's all right. Thank you.
He was also throwing a middle finger up to the Guardians.
I did not do that. I would never.
Steve is a scholar and a gentleman, and very politely was sending a nice sweeping video to our friends Elizabeth and Keith in Cleveland. Right. Hey guys.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, hey, but we all had a great time. I know I know the Hill Tappers loved Listerman, as did I. And it's the fourth time that I have checked in. Every time I go there, it's almost always on the list. And now the last time Liz and I went there, it was basically the St. Patrick's Day theme, so I had to get the St. Patrick's Day themed beers. I didn't this time, although they still had one on the list, but I had the lemon pound cake blonde, and I always love that thing, man. Every time I go there and it's on the list, I have to get it, and that's the fourth time in a row that I've gotten it.
I like that it's always there. That is a great beer.
Yeah.
I walked in the place, and the first thing I wanted was the Dunkel, and guess what was the first thing they were out of was the Dunkel.
Yeah.
But they did have a
you were picking a popular one.
I guess, but it was still on the board. But yes, yeah. But they did have a pre-prohibition lager, which was damn good, and I had the All for One Pilsner, so I do love Listerman. I didn't want to get in. They always have the 12%ers on the board anytime you want them. I didn't quite get into it that time of the day. I was like, not yet. Just not yet.
No, I've never been there the time of the day where I'd want a 12% beer. That would probably be like the last part of the day that I would probably go, and then I'd be like, all right, this is how I'm ending my day. I know.
But they're really good at them. They're really good at making those beers.
Yes, they are. So a couple of the other beers that I had there was the pre-prohibition lager and the German Pilsner as well that I really loved and checked in. It's always good to check in at Listerman Brewing, even though I know for you, Liz, it's almost enemy territory since, Xavier is right across the street.
I am a Bearcat fan, but guess what? You're a Musketeer fan, and we get along, so it can be done. It can be done. Contrary to what people think, it's possible.
It is. It is.
Coexist.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just for 2 hours, a couple times a year, we're rooting for different teams. But at the same time, if you're from Cincinnati, you just want to root for Cincinnati. So
But see, the stronger bond that Liz and I have is the fact that we're West Siders. We grew up like almost 3 or 4 miles from each other. And if we found out the last time we were in town, we had the same dentist growing up.
We're cool.
Maybe we were there at the same time. We just didn't know it. Like there's Liz sitting over there. There's Steve sitting over here, and with our coloring books or something.
You never know. You never know. It's the 2 degrees of separation of Kevin Bacon.
That's right.
Well, someone gave you each different coloring books because one's for Cincinnati, one's for Cincinnati.
Oh my gosh.
Anyway.
Well, I guess we should have, encouraged Steve earlier that red and black are cooler colors than blue and white.
Ooh, there it is.
I know.
It's always going to be there, Steve.
It's okay. Steve likes the color red because it's our Cincinnati Reds, too.
I do. So yeah, there you go.
It's a quintessential Cincinnati color, red.
Yeah. Well, after Listerman, who wants to talk about our next place? I think, Liz, you're up with Mellotone.
You guys were, I think at that point, hungry.
Yes.
And so we were throwing out some ideas. I think Steve had a list, and we were trying to accomplish this list. And next up on this list, the old Taft Brewing downtown unfortunately closed, but was revamped and revived by Mellotone, which none of us had seen under the new decor or beer making. So that was our next stop down to over the Rhine to see Mellotone.
Yep. And you talk about the list. The list, we didn't talk about this in the beginning of the podcast, but the list is so big. And the list gets bigger and bigger. It's kind of become like a big joke of like every time somebody will text about going up to Cincinnati, and a lot of times we're all on group text, and I'll just say, what's being added to the list?
It's at this point, I think, a scroll that's a few miles long, but we'll eventually accomplish it. So it's fine.
We're gonna accomplish everything on that list, Scott. What do you think? Even the zoo?
I'm not putting the zoo on my list. But,
okay.
But
yes, we will accomplish everything. Dunkel from Listerman's, would you go?
You could draw me in with that, and maybe a couple of other things. You got to kill 2 to 3 hours.
The coolest zoo in America. You gotta go see our lovely lady Fiona the hippo. She is pride and joy.
Well, Mellotone was a new addition. It was on the list. I don't know if we had put it on like this is exactly where we're gonna go when we hit town, but we knew about it, and I'm glad we went because, as you said, Liz, it's in the old Taft Brew House. And it's very different, though. I mean, I went in there, and I can't remember. Liz, had you been there before?
I had not been there since Mellotone had redone the space.
Okay, so it's basically it's very modern looking. You go in there, and I was kind of surprised by it. I was like, oh wow, okay, a little more upscale, a little more modern. But they do have good food, and they had craft beer options as well, and a lot of other things.
Yeah, I was happy to see that there was beer going back in there. Whether you call it a brewery, maybe. It looks a little more food-oriented, restaurant-oriented. Nice place, like you said. They did have good beer. I just think it leans a little more towards the food side than it does the brewery side. But it was nice to see somebody going back in there that had beer, because I've been to that Taft, and it was a great place.
I would guess it's probably more small batch versus large batch.
Definitely. But the stuff was good. We liked the stuff once we figured out what it was.
I loved, actually, I know this is not beer related, but I had ordered a cucumber caprese salad while I was there. And I was straight up obsessed that the zucchinis came in zoodle noodles. So they were like spaghetti noodles made out of cucumbers. So I went home and tried to reproduce that later in the week. Yeah, I'm not there yet, but it's going to be a summer adventure of trying to figure out how to reproduce this to the best of my ability. So some of that was ingredients and what I could find, but I don't know. I was a big fan of that. So
maybe just need the right tool for, that thing.
Oh, no, I have a zoodler.
You have it. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Great place. Just happy to see somebody back in there making beer. So hopefully they have a long life there.
Did you guys have a favorite beer there?
The favorite beer that I had that I rated on a flight was the 15th Street Bloom Hazy New England IPA. Wasn't the West Coast IPA, but it was the Hazy New England IPA. So that was my favorite on the flight.
That was cool. They had a Champlain Stunner New England IPA, which I really liked. And by the way, we got to meet Tom's daughter here and her boyfriend. Remember, for the first time, Zoe? Beer Cat, yeah. We got to meet her for the first time here. Yeah, so
absolutely.
It was a great meeting up. Really, we did like the place. The place was really nice.
It was. So, well, that was a great time and a great day to end the day at Mellotone because it was a Sunday night, and like most cities, they start rolling the sidewalks up at about 9 o'clock or so.
Yeah.
So we had to call it a night. Liz would not invite us back to her palatial estate in Indian Hill, with 7 bedrooms and a big party house. She said, "Nope, sorry, you can't come back to my place tonight with the disco ball." And I know Scott wanted to bring his zoot suit back there and everything else, and Liz said, "Absolutely not."
Yeah, just me and Joe Burrow hanging out. No big deal.
Yeah, we'll get to that. We'll get to that in a few minutes. We probably weren't that far a couple days after near Joe Burrow over in that area. But we got to talk about our pretty epic day that began. And I said this because when we went on that Monday, May 19th, and we started our day at Madtree, and we walked in there, it was around 11 o'clock, and this is the Madtree location in Oakley. And I said, when you can walk into a brewery at about 11:30 on a Monday morning, you are living life pretty good.
You guys were quite the celebrities at Madtree. Had some people coming out to say hello.
Yeah. Our buddy Ryan, who is the director of operations.
Yes.
Formerly the head brewer, who was on the podcast. He and Brittany were on the podcast, and he came out to say hello, which was great to meet him. He said he was going to be there, and we said, "Hey, we're here," and he came down and talked to us for quite a while. So it was great to finally meet him in person.
Yeah, it really was. We were almost cursing ourselves last year because we did not get to Madtree Oakley. We had stayed up in that area, and we left town, and we were like, how did we not get to Madtree? And it didn't happen. And we've been there so many times. Love that location. The thing I noticed had changed when we walked in there is they got somebody now that is, seating you because they've got more food options and things like that. And we keep talking about it. It's like more of the brewery experience. So Madtree and Oakley has changed quite a bit too, just in terms of how they're doing it, because they, even though they have a lot of craft beer options, they also serve a lot of other kind of drinks too. So that's a cool thing.
That was just another day, another perfect weather day. That day we started out with. We had like 3 days in a row, Steve, where we started out, didn't start out great. We had 3 days in a row that were absolutely perfect. And this was another one of those where just added to the experience.
You guys, Southern gentlemen, brought that sunshine to poor rainy Ohio.
I don't know what happened to it after those 3 days, but
I don't know.
We went back to rain. We went back to rain, guys.
Mm-hmm.
We know. We rain followed us the entire trip that we're going to be talking about on our next Cleveland Takeover podcast, because it rained for days. But I know it was great getting back there, and I had a couple of great things on a flight. I had their oat lager, which was really good.
Yeah.
The Shandy Lynx, also, which was their Czech dark lager that I rated like a 4.25 on Untapped, and I loved those beers. And I always love most of the options, craft beer options that they have, at Madtree. And Liz and I can talk about this because, we had brunch at the one downtown a couple of months ago. Yeah, Alcove. And you've been to their new location too. And,
yes, I've been to Parks and Rec.
Yep. And so we were actually talking about that with Ryan, because I said, it seems like it still is, I think Madtree is trying to really branch out and get everybody in the brewery experience. I think the one in Oakley is still the place you probably want to go, and they would even all agree, if you want to get most of the craft beer.
For the beer, yeah. We walked in and we were just started talking about the menu, and the bartender was like, "Hey, try these different sea and colors that they had." Remember they had like a hazy and a tropical or something, and I started sampling of some things, and I'm like, "Oh, these are great." And another one that they had, Steven, you talked about this earlier, Mexican lager. They had a great Mexican lager.
Yep, they sure did.
And a Helles lager. Yeah, like the whole weekend we went. The whole week we've been gone. We had Mexican lager almost everywhere we went. It seemed like they're out in force and they're delicious. And that was another example of them.
They are, yeah.
Yeah.
So, well, like I said earlier, when you can start your day on a Monday at Madtree or any brewery at about 11:30 in the morning, if that's your Monday, it's always a good time.
Yep. Now our friend Liz here, she got to join us.
Yes, she did.
She couldn't drink.
Well, it's because I had to go to work, and like any good citizen, I was there for the social component. But also, I did take my to-go purchase very seriously, and they relaunched their Rocket Pop Sway for the summer. So, I needed to get that for Memorial Day weekend so I could have my red, white, and blue popsicle vodka in a can.
Right, which you did, which you took with you. So, yes, you did.
And I just saw you posted that as well.
I did Yay. With a cute little sunset behind it. So I figured, it was one of those golden hours. You're having a nice cocktail. It needed its little own photo shoot.
All the fantastic pictures and videos at Every Day I'm Bubbling. Follow her on Instagram because it is great.
Yep. By the way, and I don't know if you said it, but the Hill Tappers joined us here as well as Beer Cat. She joined us again too, and just another great way to start the day.
Yes, I am very glad that we made it back to Madtree, and we'll talk about the next place. But you, Scott, are on your own on this one because I did not get over to West Side this time. I was off doing family stuff, but
right.
Liz, West Side Brewing is one of our favorite places because, we are from the West Side. So Scott
do love a good West Side Brewing, yes.
Scott went over there and he hosted the Hill Tappers over at West Side Brewing.
We had a kind of a reshuffling of cars, dropped you off to do your thing. Liz had to go to work. And we went over to West Side, and man, I had a couple of flights over there, which is really good. I love it because I got there. They always have the windows that face the street up. You kind of look out into the street and people watch, and which is always great. And just had some of their beers. Man, they had a smoked lager, an English mild, another Mexican lager, if you can believe it. They had a Lorien lager, a lime and sea salt common ale. I mean, they had everything on there. So, again, Hill Tappers joined me. We sat there, had a couple of flights, passed the time a bit. We put our stickers up all over the place. There are multiple locations. Yes, there are multiple locations within the brewery you can put your stickers at, and we did all that. So
Scott had the advantage this time. I was a little jealous because the last two times I went there, and I think one of the times I was there with you, Liz, they didn't have the windows open because it was like 12 degrees outside.
Yes. You also came on a highly precipitation weekend, but of the flurrying kind.
It seems every time I go, and Steve, it's kind of the same story because you're kind of doing your thing, and I go to West Side because it's close by, and it's the weather's always nice because it's May, right? It's kind of late May, and the windows are open, and I just sit there drinking beer, and the sunlight's coming in. It's a nice little spot, and they've got great beer. And is it Gilligan's is the other brand that they have?
Gilligan's.
Yeah. It's Gilligan's. So they have some of that on the menu too. So you get a kind of a mix of West Side and Gilligan's, which is all under the same umbrella. Really good stuff. And we killed a couple of flights waiting on Steve to get done.
Well, Liz and I actually went to Gilligan's the last time that I had been in town in the location in Wyoming. So, really, really great place. But the thing I always say about West Side is you can go in there like every couple of months and you always see different beer there.
Yeah.
I mean, they produce a lot of variations of beer and different beer, and everything in there is always good.
And they do and I've seen it a million times. Every time I've been in there, they have a regular West Side IPA. And I looked up, sometimes you think you've had something and you look at it on tap, I realized I hadn't had the regular West Side IPA, so I had that in addition to everything else this time too. So, man, we had it all, and we just kind of waiting on Steve. We're like, oh, come on, where we're going next?
Well, the next place we went, Liz, was your favorite place.
I know, I had FOMO.
I know you weren't there, but I helped represent the place well, and we went to the world famous Brink Brewing. We love it. That's right. So I know Scott had been there once. The Hill Tappers, it was their first time ever at Brink Brewing. And Liz,
you guys got to see the whole patio redo out back.
Yep.
Yeah, because we walked in from that way, I think.
I had some big time breaking news that happened at Brink.
What was that? Do I forget?
It's
the West Coast IPA tour that's going on.
The tour that he's on.
Oh, I feel like this is going to be a big news.
This is big news. This is breaking news on the Brewery Underground podcast. Their West Coast IPA, the Hopperatic IPA.
You heard it here first, folks.
She will be here all week. From the breaking news desk. Dramatic pause here.
Drum roll, please.
The first time ever, it would, of course, make sense. The brewery that I grew up the closest to, I rated the highest I've ever rated a West Coast IPA.
Oh.
The Hopperatic IPA at Brink Brewing, I rated not a 4 because I had not even rated a 4 on Untapped of a West Coast IPA. Nuh-uh, man. We took it to a 4.25.
Wow. That is big news.
It is big news.
Wow, what a jump. What a jump. What was the previously highest rated West Coast IPA? 375 probably?
Yes, 3.75. Yep. Had a lot of those checked in.
If you're just backing up my Brink is the best statement, so
I hadn't jumped into the 4 realm yet, and I was like, you know what? This is a fantastic West Coast IPA, and I love it.
Wow. I was there for it. I remember you talking about it, and I'm still in disbelief. I saw it.
I think you were kind of paying attention to your own beer there, Scott. There was a lot going on that day.
It was a lot. I do remember you talking about that this is like a moment. Like this is the highest rated West Coast IPA you've ever had. And you're like, yes, I do recall.
Well, and then, Brad from our the Hill Tappers likes to call it the Sully scale. It's like, I do what I do. And then the other one I had, Liz, and I know we had a bit of a debate on this one, but I rated high the Gold Top IPA.
Yeah, I was always under the impression that was named after the Gold Top Creamy dairy bar. That was where Steve and I hailed and got our, summer ice creams from.
It's still around, too. It still exists to this day. They're in White Oak, right down the street from White Oak Junior High.
Can't miss it. It's a gold pyramid top.
It is. It's been around all my life, and Scott's like, yeah, okay, all right, yeah.
Much like the name, Gold Top. I'll tell you, I had a weird one there, and I say weird. It was a King Cake. It was called King Cake. Liz, have you had that one?
I have, and I think that was one of our friends from Louisville's favorite beer of the trip.
It was. Tom loved that beer.
Yes.
And the more he had, the more he liked it.
Yeah, that's definitely for earlier in the year, holidays.
Yeah.
But it's a good one.
It's kind of a winter ale type with the spice and stuff in there.
Mm-hmm.
And it's good. I guess King Cake was kind of related to like Mardi Gras or something. I guess it's kind of somehow and it was okay. And I'm not hating on it. Man, the more you drank, the more it kind of weighed on you. It was like, I can't wait for this to be gone.
It's a heavier beer. I think it's sweeter. You got to be in the right mood for that one.
A lot of spice. There was a lot of spice in it.
Yes.
Yeah, Tom loved that.
Yes, that was his favorite. And I was like, oh, well, I bet you they had some bottles you could take home. So, because they have their little refrigerator right there that you can grab some to go from.
I did have a Moozy. And isn't Moozy, Steve, that gold winning from the World Cup 2025? Didn't they win gold, Moozy?
Cincinnati correspondent Liz, our Moozy expert.
Wasn't that in our episode?
Did win World Cup gold medal.
Gold, that's right.
Yes.
For a milk sweet stout.
Yes. And they had another World Cup win with Little Zoomy. So that's my other favorite at Brink. Moozy and Little Zoomy, dark beers. And Little Zoomy was a collab with La Terza Coffee, which is down the street. So it's got a nice little pick-me-up to it. I would call it the espresso martini of beers. You get a little zing with that one. So it's a good time. Yep.
again, another place that had a ton of different styles. I had a lime lager, I had the IPA, I had that New England IPA, I had the milk stout, I had the winter. Like, it's all sorts of things you can get.
I do love that about there because, sometimes you go to different breweries and they'll have, a majority of one style of beer on the board. And if you're someone who likes multiple styles or, maybe you're a dark beer person in the summer thinking, oh man, what am I going to do? I do love that Brink always has a little bit of everything on the board. They have multiple rotating, seasonal beers as well, but they do have like a core group of beers that are multiple styled.
And Steve, if I ever remember right, wasn't their flight 5 on the flight? Yeah. Yep. Most of 4. That was you get a 5th one on that one, which is nice. You can kind of add that extra style if you need it.
Yeah, not everybody does that. West 6 House did that. They did a flight of 5 when I walked in there. So yeah.
They're fancy.
Yeah. Well,
cool stuff.
Yes, we love Brink, and it's always cool to get new people there because I think, Scott, you'd only maybe been there once. I remember I took you there a couple of years ago, and I think I've been to Brink now probably at least a dozen times. Been there with Liz a couple of times, and so it's always a great time. And I have a feeling the next time I come in town, Liz, we'll probably end up there again.
We'll be back. We'll be back. It's a good spot.
We'll be doing it live. Well, from Brink, Scott, we teased this earlier because there had been a brewery. When we hit town, we had only been there for a half an hour.
Oh, only a half hour.
Man. We were in a hurry. The Reds game got moved up. We were going to pregame at Rhinegeist on that Friday when we got in town. We were going to be there for like 2.5 hours at least. And we got there and we realized we were pressed for time. So we only got there when we went to Rhinegeist and hit town. We were only there for a half hour. And then we got on the streetcar. And we realized when we got out of there is no way you can do Rhinegeist justice by only staying for a half hour. So we came back.
That was very kind of you to go back and give it another tour.
I
mean, twist the arm.
I mean, they've earned it. Rhinegeist has earned it. Go back a second time. We were happy to go back. We couldn't wait to get back, by the way. And we would make sure we spent a lot of time there this time. Liz, you joined us.
I did, because I could have a beer this time.
You finally came, but you came back. All right, I'm back. Now, here's one of the great things. We get to spend some time. Went to the rooftop. Steve, if you recall, if we looked on the board, there were a couple of beer names up there, which I had not noticed. I don't know if you noticed or someone else noticed.
Oh, yes. I took a picture of it when we first walked in there. When we were only there a half hour, I noticed.
Oh, you noticed the first time?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we got our picture the second time we went back. Well, they had 2 beer names that were pretty basically named after Steve and I.
The Brewery Underground podcast beer?
Not quite that specific. Oh. But there was a Scotty and a Steve, and they were on the board, and they were right next to each other. It's like they knew we were coming.
I mean, they knew. They were welcoming.
Did you guys try those beers?
Of course.
And I'd had the Steve before. It's pretty good.
I'd had the Steve. Well, I had the Scott before. I had the Steve that time. We got our little pictures under our little names. Isn't it cute? And
I know.
It was named for they wouldn't tell us it was named for us, but they were named for us.
I know. So, anyway, I know.
Delicious beer. So anyway.
Yeah, absolutely.
But we did get to the rooftop this time and got to spend several hours. We got to spend a lot of time up there. Uh-huh.
Liz was there. The Hill Tappers were there. And that's another thing that went through my mind that day. I'm like, so we're starting the day on a Monday at Madtree. We're one of the first people here. And we're ending the day on a Monday at Rhinegeist. And we basically closed the place. And we were one of the last ones there on the rooftop and in the whole place. So I think we all won. And Liz, you're a champ. Because even though you were working, you still came out on a Monday to have a beer with us.
Well, I love a rooftop. Those are my favorite all summer long. I have my own personal list of rooftops I have to hit this summer. So, yeah, can't turn down a good night with sunshine, friends. I was excited to try my favorite Bearcat beer, the Cincy Light Lime, the new little summertime version of Cincy Light, and I ended up having that again at Taste of Cincinnati last week, and I think I've decided that might be the beer of summer. So,
and do you know what? I actually had that. That was my beer of choice when we got to Rhinegeist, and we were only there for a half hour. I got it.
I really hope they can that, because that I can see, yeah, being a poolside boat beer / tailgating beer this fall, because I'm sure they'll have some left over and carry on over into football tailgating season. So
yeah, nice refreshing beer. Yeah, anything you kind of put lime in light beers like that, they always work out pretty good.
Well, it was a fun time all around, and then we ended up, a group of us, went over to Yardhouse after that. Little
because we were looking
down to
we were looking for a place that was still open.
Yeah.
Mondays are hard. It's industry night. So yeah, and you guys were champs. You were a whole day of events, and you even carried on past my bedtime. So.
I'll tell you this though, when we got to Yardhouse, we got some food. I got a beer. I got about three quarters of the way through that beer, and I'm like, I can't drink another freaking beer today. I was full, not just from like food.
Coma overcame me 2 times that week. And the second time it happened was the last place we were at when you and myself and Liz were hanging out. But we'll talk about that here in a minute, because, that led us to the last day we were there, Scott, and that was on the Tuesday, May 20th, where Liz, who always knows everywhere to go, she knows everything, she recommended a great breakfast place for us. Where I overcompensated on my breakfast and went into food coma right away, but it was so great.
It's a little known, you wouldn't know it was there because it doesn't necessarily stand out, but to the locals, it's the place to be. It's only open for breakfast and lunch, but it's in Hyde Park Square. It's called the Echo. So it's a small, tiny little diner. Can't go wrong. You can order breakfast at any point in time or lunch at any point in time. So, and they also have, mimosas and Bloody Marys for those who are ready to start their day early with their vitamins. What'd you guys get?
Egg salad sandwich. Steve, what did you get?
I got a very big Eggs Benedict, the biggest Eggs Benedict I've ever had in my life, and some potatoes on the side, and they were awesome. But then I was like, man, I'm about to go into a food coma here. And it kind of followed me all through the day.
Yeah.
But it was a great way to start the day. And I had said I had not been in the Hyde Park area of Cincinnati in many a year. So, Liz, thank you for taking us there.
Listen, you got to start your drinking day right. We got to, get you a good base and make sure you were recovered from the night before. So they do a good job there of filling you up and getting you ready for the day.
That's right.
And a double order of Eggs Benedict.
Woo! Yeah, buddy. Next time I'm gonna bring my twin with me and be like, okay, over here.
I know. I kept trying to get you guys to order the hot mess, which is also a champion of breakfast there. I mean, it's everything piled onto one plate, and and they have the vegetarian version too for those who are not into feta or sausage or bacon.
Well, it was a mighty fine breakfast to start the day.
It was good.
And I felt like it was a mighty fine breakfast to get us on to where we finally went. It's been long overdue. It's been a long overdue trip to where we went next. One of the best breweries in Cincinnati. We knew, and I've known for years about this place. I just haven't been able to get there. Little Miami in Milford. Holy cow. That's what I'm going to say. Guys, talk about Little Miami.
Steve, it's been on our list for a long time. We've talked about it for years. Like you said earlier, geographically, it's never kind of worked. So we made it work this time. And it was well worth the visit. There's a distillery right across the street that next time we're going to go visit. We're going to plan a little better next time and go visit that. But the place was phenomenal. Another one we checked off. I didn't have any food there. I don't know if you guys did. Beer was fantastic. The space is awesome. It rained so much we could not sit outside. It's literally on the river. You could sit out there
honestly,
with your beer.
I think had it been sunny and about 80 degrees, I'm not so sure we would have gone anywhere else the rest of the day.
That's a fair point.
You
That's a
can
fair
go
point.
canoeing at one of the local canoe spots and hop out of your canoe and walk up the hill and sit on the patio and have a beer and then get back
Hmm.
in your canoe and continue on your journey. So,
Yes. I just wish we could have, weather permitting, we could have sat out there and just done that because that would have been cool as shit.
well, good thing Steve put it back on the list.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah.
It was on the top of the priority list. Like, that was basically like the non-negotiable. We're going there unless,
Yeah.
my legs are broken, or, Scott broke my legs because he got sick and tired of me or something.
Me?
No, I mean, seriously, it's just a huge space inside. And the thing that really struck me is I don't think I've ever been to a brewery where you look up and they have like a little thing that will flash, and it wasn't that when we were there, of how much time you have to wait. Like, 15-minute
yeah.
wait, 20-minute wait, 40-minute wait. There wasn't a wait when we got there, but I'm going, how many breweries have that? And I can understand why, because Milford's such a unique area with a lot to do anyway. And I kept thinking, and we got there, probably about 1 o'clock in the afternoon or something. And it
You
was
could
already,
spend a whole day in Milford.
yeah.
They have a lot of unique things to do. The nature center is not too far from there. You can go on a little hike. They have a whole bunch of restaurants, little shops to check out on that street. Yeah, there's definitely a distillery across the street that you can,
Hmm.
get your fine beers at one location, get your fine bourbon and whiskey across the street. So, yeah, you could
That'll
have a
be
whole
part of
day
the
there.
plan. That'll be part of the plan next
There's
time.
a rooftop at that distillery too. So,
Is there? See, yeah.
yep.
We just
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
we just need a
Yep.
nice day.
This is
Yeah,
where
so you
Liz
guys need
wants
to
to
go
take us
back when
next
it's
time.
sunny and
Yeah, we will.
experience the outdoor prowess of this brewery because you got to see the really cool indoor, feature and spot.
Yeah.
But yeah, you should definitely see it at its sunshiny best.
Yeah, we've talked about ambiance in a few places that we've been to on this trip so far, and to sit on a river to drink beer and just that would be another example of it. Just my God, on a 75-degree day, it's like we're not going anywhere else.
I mean, it's Little Miami Brewing sitting on the Little Miami River. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's perfectly named. And I think you guys had some good beers there.
I know I had the St. James Dry Irish Stout, which I really loved. The other one I had was the 71 Peaches. And I said to Scott, so there's a brewery in Bristol, Tennessee that we've come to know the owner a little bit. And they also have a beer, Johnson City Brewing, it's Peaches. And it reminded me of that beer. This thing was fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
I absolutely loved it. And then I also got their Turn the Page sour fruited. And again, another brewery that has such a big diversity of beer. I don't know how often they change their tap list. I'm assuming they do a lot, and they have. I think you said there too, Scott, that they have food out there. So just a wonderful place.
Yeah, and we've not mentioned this. When you go to a brand new place like this, and for Little Miami, I don't think I've had anything outside of the brewery either. Can on draft from another place. Like everything I had here was brand new that day. Like I could have ordered anything on the board and not even thought about it, and it would have been brand new because I've never had a Little Miami beer anywhere else ever, which was cool.
Right.
So everything was completely brand new. Yeah, great. I mean, I had a grapefruit. They call it Grateful IPA, the Pterodactyl, which is a wheat beer, and a Pine Drop, which I think was very piney. It says pale ale. Dude, that was similar to like a West Coast IPA. It didn't say it was, but it was pretty close to one.
Yeah.
Even they called it pale because it was very piney. But anyway, great friggin' spot. Another one to go back to that we will have to go back to.
Oh, absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
the distillery across the street.
Oh
Mhm.
yeah, oh yeah, and as I mentioned before, I mean, you got to go through a lot of nice areas out there. You go through an area called Indian Hill,
Oh,
where I know,
yeah.
Liz is the neighbor of Joe Burrow. They probably hang out at their golf courses and their country clubs.
That's why I have to go to work to pay for my multi-million-dollar house. Yes.
But as we were going out there, I thought, oh yeah, this is Indian Hill. Somewhere in this whole area, there's a lot of rich people, and there's a lot of, Joe Burrow lives probably somewhere out in that area, probably in a gated community. I don't know. It would have been cool if we'd gone in there, and maybe he would have been there took a beer with us, but he wasn't.
I mean, it's pretty out there. You're kind of getting towards a little bit further from the city when you get to Indian Hills. So, like larger yards. You have some rolling landscape. You got some, horse crossings that you have to watch out for on some of these back roads on the way to, for the horseback riders that go across the road. So yeah, you're getting a little bit further out. It's still, within the 275 belt loop, but it's a little further out from the city.
From Little Miami, Scott, we went to another new brewery. Well, I went. Okay. I had not been to this one before. You had been, and that would be Esoteric.
Yes, love Esoteric, man. I remember
How
being
long were
there.
you guys at Esoteric? Because I think this might have been your longest brewery visit of the trip.
It was a while. We went in and we knew John Reese is somebody we had talked to prior to come on the podcast, and I had been already, and we were going to come up there and let's meet when we get there, and we meet him, and then he introduces us to the head brewer, Anik, and then the owner Brian is there, so we end up kind of going in the back. He takes us in the back and he starts bringing us beer, and we end up talking for what, 2 hours, Steve?
It was a while. Yeah.
We were just talking beer, and he kept bringing us more beer.
Yeah.
And just had a great time. Really great guy. I mean, he was great. And he actually sent us an email today, but they're coming on the podcast. But so he brought us a couple of, actually one of them was a West Coast IPA from, I think it was the Bellevue, Steve, one of them. And then, but he brought out that Belgian quad.
Uh-huh.
At 10%.
Yes.
Which was delicious. He kept wanting us to try all these things, which were amazing beers. And Steve goes, when he brought that quad out, that's when things changed for you. You were just like
a little bit. Yeah, a little bit. But I have to also. There was also some breaking news at Esoteric. The one you just mentioned, the Bellevue Hill West Coast IPA. I also rated that one. Breaking news. 4.25 on Untappd.
Oh.
Look at that. We got 2 4.25s.
Doing it, baby. Doing it. The West Coast IPA tour from Cincinnati.
You guys are going to have a lot to talk about with these guys when they come on.
I know.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they're really great. John was really great. Again, we got to meet several of them. I won't even say better than expected, but it really was. When you talk to people and have an experience, and they start bringing you stuff out, and you just talk. We talked for 2 hours just about beer, and he was passionate, and he was happy to talk to us, and he was like, "Come on back here," and happy to come on the podcast. Just that kind of excitement. It's like, oh man, this is easy.
But it almost kind of sounds like it felt like a little family experience, like you were getting invited to the family, dinner table to sit there and try everything.
We did, and I felt awkward at first. I was like, "Hey guys, you got stuff to do with me." No, stay. Would you like this other one? Here, bring. I'll go get you a couple others. And he brought more beers back. So he was like, "Don't leave." And we felt welcomed, I guess, is ultimately what I'm trying to say.
That's awesome. Yeah. You got welcomed into the family.
Yeah. It was really cool. And I had another friggin' Mexican lager there. Another great Mexican lager.
If it's trending, it's trending.
Yeah, there you go.
It really is. So great place. Steve, what did you think about that Belgian quad? Because I loved it.
Oh, I loved it. Yeah, I think I rated it about a 4 on Untappd. I had to go back and look, but it was really good because I had that, and I had another IPA called the Lotus. It was also really good. And the only thing I knew about Esoteric, obviously I knew they were a brewery over that way. I had some of their beer on can that I picked up over the years from Party Source, and even though I know, we joke about the list. Esoteric has been on the list for a while. I think the last time maybe I was in town with Liz, I was like, I got to get the Esoteric, and never got over there. I think that's just where it was, but I was glad that we got to it now. So
yeah. Hey, Liz, when we walked in, the place was popping. Like it was like they had some kind of what'd you call it, like a corporate event or something, like some. Yeah. But not like a private event.
Space for days. They like to host a lot of events there. During the week, they always have different groups. Like they have a karaoke night. They occasionally host like salsa night there. So like that whole front room turns into like a salsa dancing area. There's a back room that can have a party simultaneously. There's a really cool window where you can grab food from. Yeah, and then they even have some tables out back in the sunshine that you can go sit. But it was raining that day, so I'm sure you guys didn't sit back there.
No, nope.
But yeah, no, it's a huge functional space. So they have a lot of options with that, and they try to, have a lot of community events during the week too.
Yeah, it was full, like, again, some kind of corporate or something event, and we walked in, got beer and stuff, and then we were like, hey, is John Reese here? And coincidentally enough, he was the guy that served us beer initially. We didn't know. And he comes back, it's you. He goes, come back here. So we kind of went in the back and got away from the kind of the crowd out there. And again, like you said, kind of got welcomed into the family for a little bit. So it was a really cool experience. And 2 hours went by like that.
I'm excited to hear this podcast.
Yeah, they're going to be great. And we don't know if Brian's coming on. We got an email from John today, but John and Anik, who's the head brewer, are coming on for sure. So
very cool.
It's going to be great. And again, his passion, it's exciting. And I don't know.
They're in a good spot in the neighborhood
fun.
too.
Yeah.
There's all sorts of like good stuff going on around there. So, they're in a good neighborhood, good spot, and a lot of things to grow in a positive way.
Yeah. Well, it was great to check them off the list. I know for me. And, the plan was, and I mentioned in the beginning of the podcast, that there were a bunch of breweries we'd hoped to get to. And the one that was on our priority list, and we got there last year, we were going to go to it after Esoteric, but Esoteric just kept us for a long time. I looked at Scott. I said, I think we need to call an audible here. We were going to go to Streetside. And instead, I said, maybe we should go a little bit closer where we're staying, maybe get some food. And you were texting us, Liz.
I was trying to give you options. I was throwing out the bat signal options, like where do you want to go? Because I also heard that Steve was hungry, so we were trying to find some spots that had some good food. And yeah, we ended up at an old Sullivan family favorite.
The old Sullivan family favorite. That's right. We went to Wiedeman. And I know I've talked about this on the podcast before, that Wiedeman in St. Bernard, Ohio, basically where I grew up as a kid, because my grandparents were from there. And, this place used to be a funeral home, and used to be, where we had the funerals for like the Sullivans. And I can't even tell you how many funerals I went to as a kid there. And now it's a brewery. It's been a brewery for a while. And the thing that always stands out is the fact that I still go into the bathroom, and I'm like, many, many years later, the bathroom still looks the same.
They have such a good eclectic collection of just paraphernalia everywhere, signs, lights, just all sorts of cool stuff in there. It's a treasure trove of collector items.
I'm glad we went, because it did work out for all of us, because we could get food. Right.
It was Taco Tuesday.
It was Taco Tuesday. I actually got tacos.
And Scott's favorite part of the whole trip was here, because little did we know when we sat down that it was also Singo night.
That's right.
Now, I've got no problem with Singo. The style of music being played was a little not my thing.
It was fabulous. What can I say? It was fabulous.
I'll say this: we had to have a lot of help with our board. From Liz. I know you were the help. That's what I'm saying.
You were the help.
They played that one. Mark that one out. They played that one. And I was like, I don't know any of this shit.
You knew some.
I knew some, but that was part of the fun too. It was like, I don't know nothing.
It was fun for me.
It was a good little surprise.
It was fun.
Yes, it was fun for me to end the trip at an old place that I'm very familiar with. And by the time I got there, I was like, I am food and beer. I'm in food beer coma almost. Get a lot of great food. Had the Monkey's Dunkel there, and that was good. But it was.
I was drinking the beeritas because it was Taco Tuesday, and the beeritas were on special. So we definitely had to have a couple of those. But I know Scott tried a whole bunch of beers.
Yeah, they had one called, there was the little thing of Pete Rose was, Steve, you took a picture next to him, but they had a beer called Pete. It was just called Pete ! It was a cold IPA. I guess it was, in reference to Pete Rose, I assume. And they had one called a Muster Club Kolsch. I don't really know what the Muster Club art means, but it was a Kolsch. It was lovely. And we really did have a good time. As much as I complained about the music, I was having a good time.
Scott was dancing. Don't let him fool you guys. He was dancing in his seat.
He was.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. There's no video of that.
Doing a little Rick Astley there.
It's all recorded up here.
That's right.
It was okay. As long as it's there. We had a good time. We were there till the end. Literally till the end.
We were, it's amazing. We shut a few places down while we were in Cincinnati.
We do that.
But you know what? Like every good hostess, I made sure that you left Wiedeman's with a little surprise back waiting for you at your Airbnb.
We had some Grater's bourbon ice cream, and it was fabulous.
Off the charts.
When we got back that night, I devoured it.
It was great.
I destroyed it.
It was fantastic.
Well, I know these two like their beers, but I know they also like their bourbon. So it was a Grater's New Riff Distillery collab. So it was, bourbon ball. They had little pecans in there. And as I told Scott, I said, for not being the Cincinnati native, just wait till you get the big giant chocolate chip. Because when they make that stuff, they pour liquid chocolate and however it forms. So sometimes you can get these ginormous chocolate chips in your ice cream.
There was a vein. I showed it to Steve. There was a vein of chocolate that went through mine. It was this long. It was a damn nothing but chocolate. It was fabulous. It was perfect.
I appreciated it for you got to eat ice cream with bourbon in it. So I thought it was fabulous.
Yes, that's the angle I was coming from. It's ice cream with kind of bourbon added and the spice and things to it. Yeah, so it was lovely. It was perfect. It's a 5 out of 5 for me.
Absolutely. And
it was.
You really can't get wrong most of the time with Grater's ice cream. And of course, I had that Grater's collab, the beer at Braxton on the trip too. So, the best of both worlds. Gotta love it. Scott, excellent. Before we get to some stats on the trip.
Yeah. Okay.
There's something that we have to talk about.
Uh-oh.
Because am
I in trouble?
Well, no. But on a previous podcast, you had mentioned you were going to be bringing this, and I asked you about it. Liz, he was going to bring us some chili beer that he made.
Oh, yeah. We don't want that.
And he did not.
Oh, no. Wait a minute.
Remember?
It didn't turn out.
Well, brew it again, and then we can pair it with some Skyline.
I will agree. Something. When I say it didn't turn out, I'm not saying it tasted bad. I'm saying it turned. It got vinegary, soury. So something got in it. I don't know. We will revisit it. I promise.
Yeah.
Like if it just tasted bad, I'd be like, hey, try it. No, it went bad. What happened?
It dawned on me about halfway through our trip, and I'm like, wait a minute. Liz and I were supposed to drink that beer. We were supposed to try that beer. We were going to post pictures of that beer.
If it just tasted bad, it'd be one thing. I'm not going to give you sour beer.
Well, we don't want that.
No. I'll do it again. I promise.
You're pardoned for that one.
Yeah.
Huh?
You're pardoned.
Okay. I promise. If it comes out halfway, if it's not turned bad, I'll give it to you, even if it doesn't taste good. But not
maybe the essence of chili. Maybe did you get some Skyline chili packets while you were here for brewing?
Think about that.
Good thing there's a Kroger's in Nashville.
I have the spice. I even have cocoa. I put cocoa in the thing.
But you can get the packet of flavors from Skyline. It's like the Skyline chili packet.
Yeah, Scott.
Secret ingredients included.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, the secret ingredients. Oh, okay.
Yeah, secret ingredients.
Maybe that's the move. Maybe that's the move on the next one.
That might be.
Then you could pair it with a cheese coney or a Cholito or a three-way. You never know.
Let's get the beer so it's not sour, and then we'll figure out the rest.
That's fair.
Well,
yes, fair. Also, I got your point.
I would say we're all going to stand by for further updates. How's that?
Okay, yes. I promise we're going to revisit this.
All right. Well.
Right. So Steve.
Yeah.
We've got some stats. We're stats guys, right?
Well, stats, yeah.
We like stats.
We like some stats.
We like stats. We've got some stats for this leg of the journey.
Yeah.
And when I say stats, talking about, different beers, number of beers out, all that kind of stuff. So why don't you start with some of your stats?
Well, my stats don't match up to your stats.
No, that's not the thing. No, that's not the thing. No, we're not worried about that part.
But I got some stats. So from what I could tell, because I had to go back and rethink about some of the beers I had and how many I had. On that trip, Yeah, and on that trip, I ranked about 57 beers on that trip in Cincinnati. I've now hit 7 new breweries, 16 breweries total on that trip. Rhinegeist twice, Yardhouse twice, and if you count all the breweries over time that I've been in Cincinnati, of breweries that I've been to, now this does include like, going to like BJ's and also Yardhouse and Moreline, Lager House. I stand at about 48.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
That's more than most cities have of breweries. Most cities don't have 48 breweries in there.
Yeah, that's right.
You're kind of halfway.
So I know. So we're chipping away.
That's
you know
right.
what
that number
means,
goes up.
Liz?
That number
You know
goes
what
up
that
every
means,
year.
Liz? Yeah, Liz, you know what that means? We're just gonna have to come back and explore more.
Sounds like a plan.
There you go.
And there always have to be new ones on the list, right?
That's right. That's
right.
Well, some of these spots are adding, multiple locations. Like Madtree's got a couple. I know you guys have been to the multiple Braxton locations.
Mm-hmm.
So minus you gotta get to the downtown one.
I know it.
We're gonna get to all of them eventually. When we're both 90, we'll have hit the last one.
Well, and when you look sideways, Taft becomes Mellotone, and you got to visit it again. So
that's right.
Damn it, there's another one.
Oh darn!
All right.
Well, and by the way, what I did not include, the 48 also includes some of the ones that I've been to that are now closed. So I'll throw that out.
Well, yeah.
There are a couple that have since closed over the years, but
that's not your fault.
I know it ain't my fault. I still went to them.
Yeah, you went to them. Yeah, of course. They count. They count.
Exactly.
So on this leg of this journey, I had 80 new beers, 86 total check-ins. It averaged 22 beers per day. That sounds ridiculous. 6 new breweries because I had been to some that you hadn't been to yet. Blah, blah, blah. So 6 new breweries and 17 total breweries, including Rhinegeist twice on just this trek right here that we just talked about. So the fact that, Steve, you and I went to 17 breweries in 5 days is ridiculous. It's more than 3 a day.
Yes.
It's ridiculous. Even if we count Rhinegeist twice, it's a lot. That's a lot for people in a month. And we did it in 5 days.
We did. We came. We conquered. Mission accomplished. Liz,
Right.
Are you proud of us?
So proud. So proud. Next time, I feel like we need to add to the stats just purely Cincinnati things that you did. So tally of some Cincy experiences too.
Yeah.
So, like your Red Stadium visit.
Yeah, we could keep these stats going for forever.
Well, we're gonna have how many wild animals did we see at the zoo while drinking beer? Because that's happening.
Yeah.
I can't wait to not be a part of that.
Lions and tigers and
That's a joke.
Beer. Oh my.
Oh boy. Scott's excited. He's going to the zoo.
It's gonna be fun.
It's gonna take a lot of convincing.
Craft beer.
Yeah.
I can get that anywhere. I don't have to go to the zoo for that.
No, okay.
Anyway.
Can you? What if they have an exclusive flavor?
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it.
There you go.
Anyway. Okay. So this was part 1 of Steve. This was just half of our trip so far, by the way.
That is true. We have more to talk about soon.
Yeah.
Cleveland, Akron, Columbus, Louisville. You're up next.
You're up next.
You guys are halfway there.
That's right.
Halfway there.
Liz.
I feel like I've already experienced it.
Liz, by the way, is a champ because she joined us during our trip when she was working, and she joined us tonight. We have to give her credit because she just got off work, and she's been working hard, and we're very glad that our Cincinnati correspondent could join us.
I'm glad you guys asked, and I'm glad I could be here because it's fun talking beer, drinking beer, and reminiscing with friends. So thanks for having me.
It's always a pleasure, and you're the only award-winning person on this podcast right now.
That is an exclusive award that I treasure. And at some point I will have a trophy or something of it that is sitting on a shelf somewhere.
You haven't got
whether
it yet?
I spray paint a beer can.
Like the physical thing hasn't shown up yet?
No. But that's okay. That's okay. I'll put it next to my Emmy when I get there.
Well, they're handmade, so it takes a lot of detail.
Does it come with its own exclusive homebrew, like paired with the trophy?
Yeah, but that comes much later. You get the trophy,
Okay.
then
Sounds good.
the thing. Then the thing. Let's wrap this one up, can we?
All right, we'll do it. Well, I'm gonna end this on this note. We had a lot to talk about on this podcast, and I have a feeling we're gonna give a lot of other people a lot to talk about this podcast. So until then, see you later.
Adios. Cheers.
Cheers.
We can do better ending than that. That wasn't that good.